The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Bumblefoot. Bumblefoot.
Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys. They let us think that we're big boys. They let us make a lot of noise, but we ain't rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. For you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
Alright, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Oh, the deeper I fall.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
Alright.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat above us. We will be able to prepare for takeoff. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott. It's great to have you along for the ride on this Tuesday, May 9th, Wednesday, May 10th. If you're on the East Coast, hope you had a great day, evening, and night. We are live right here at Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North, live 7 days a week. We welcome in everyone listening in on our terrestrial stations. WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, where they film The Walking Dead. We are also live on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're live on our website, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, KTLK, The Fringe FM, in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio. Remember, if you're listening to the Double R Machine, it is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. All of our music that we rock to on a nightly basis is brought to you by Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, the former lead guitarist of Guns N' Roses, currently the lead axe handler of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. Hey, you can follow us all over social media, on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, Player.fm, and Stitcher. Of course, our website is SpacedOutRadio.com. And if you head over to Patreon.com for as low as $1 a month, you can become a patron of SOR. Now, if you want to take part in this show, we don't take phone calls, but we do take questions from all of our chat rooms. So you got to sign in. You can go to our website. Just click on Listen Live. Sign up for the free chat room there. On Revolution Radio. On Spreaker. On the UPRN chat room. Or maybe you're one of the lucky ones like Ron, who's a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook. Or if you go to Twitter, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I will get to your questions and comments in there as well. Now, if you head to our website for just $5 a month, you can become a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club. We have a brand new journalism site called The Encounter Online. Click on that. We got stories of paranormal, what's going on in the world, courtesy of our editors Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. You can check out my latest blog there as well. And if you've had a sighting that you just can't explain, do me a favor. Fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is ready to find out what's going on. Tonight, it's my final show of the week before handing over the keys to the cabin here for Uncle Jimbo James Tyson, who will be covering me while I fly out to Boston for the Provincetown Paracon starting tomorrow. I got to drive to Vancouver. That's like 6 hours away. So I'm not going to make tomorrow night's show since I fly out on Thursday morning at 7 o'clock. But we're going to have some fun this weekend. So if you're out east, come join me at the Provincetown Paracon, as I will have Space Out Radio shirts, stickers, posters all around, and I would love to meet you. But first, we have a show to do. We've got 2 great hours coming up with this brilliant woman, who's not only a media executive and an award winner in Chicago, but also an extremely talented writer when it comes to learning about oneself. Jenniffer Weigel is someone who's jumped both feet into the spiritual pool as she uses her knowledge, investigation, experiences, and teachings to discuss everything about spirituality. From connecting with those on the other side to getting in touch with your own spirituality, Jen has the teachings and the knowledge for anyone to learn about themselves and who they really are. Jen's real love is adding humor to life's tragedies through her writing. She's written 4 books. Stay tuned. I'm spiritual, damn it. This Isn't the Life I Ordered. And Psychics, Healers, and Mediums. A journalist's road trip and voice from the other side. Jen Weigel is her website. Make that jenweigel.com is her website. So, let's get in tune tonight. And make sure our chakras are aligned. Jenniffer Weigel, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. So glad to have you on the show. How are you?
I hope my chakras are aligned. Thank you. How are you?
Well, you know what? I'm doing good because in British Columbia here, we are having a provincial election, which would be like the same as a state election down in the United States. So I went and voted tonight before the show, and I feel like I extended my democratic right to gripe, moan, and complain when the government I voted for, who is currently leading right now in the polls, doesn't do what I want them to do. But either way, I have my say, and everybody out there should actually get out and vote, because whether you like the government or not, or you feel they're infiltrated or not, voting is still our way to have a voice. Would you agree?
That's right. Oh, yeah, you can't be a squeaky wheel if you don't go do that part of it. So do your diligence and do it.
Absolutely. And you know what was really cool? I have to say this. Our voting station was right behind our house. Like, we live right in the middle of nowhere here, but we have our backyard. We've got about half an acre, a big parcel of land, and then behind our house is a green belt which connects to the local community hall. So we took our little guy, who's 3 years old, and not that he knows what's going on or anything, but I thought it was really kind of cool because he actually walked with me to the polling station, and he was asking questions. What are you doing, Daddy? What's that piece of paper for? And I just thought it was the coolest experience that I got to actually share my vote with my 3-year-old son. And I don't know, looking at it now, I thought, wow, that was kind of excellent, to show him that process so young.
Oh, absolutely. He'll remember it, too. And he'll be like, oh, gosh, that's what that meant. I don't think he understands the impact just yet, but eventually he'll be able to memory recall that moment. So good for you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Now, the one thing I love about you is the fact that it's not very often that we actually get to talk media here and spirituality, because you know the media business just as well as I do, if not much, much more with your experience. But the media can be so fickle and so trite when it comes to these topics of spirituality, of paranormal, of UFOs, of conspiracy. I mean, they think we're all just a bunch of wingnuts in regards to it. How do you balance that whole media career with the fact that you are very open about your spirituality and psychic ability and intuition?
250 plus million people believe that Jesus came back from the dead and talks to people as they pray in church. So that's normal, right? But this is weird. I mean, we have to sort of open our eyes to a lot of the belief systems that some people embrace as quote unquote normal. And I say this all the time. We believe what we know to be true based on the evidence that we've gathered up until now. And so we used to think in 1949 it was acceptable for a doctor to be doing a commercial for Camel cigarettes, which is true. Google it. It's a hilarious YouTube video where they're saying, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" 9 out of 10 doctors smoke Camels. And this was on TV, a nurse lighting up the Camel for the doctor. I'm old enough to remember smoking and non-smoking sections in airplanes, and this was all because someone told us that was okay. So we go like a herd to where the information is. And unfortunately, a lot of the information out there about the paranormal comes in a package with people wearing tinfoil on their heads or dead chickens around their neck or turbans on their heads, correct? I mean, we've seen that, but we've also seen people who are just as normal as you and me. And that is why I am determined to tell the stories of all the people that have these experiences, these quote-unquote gifts, the variety pack from the woman who is in a Rockford, Rockford is a little town in Illinois, sitting in a farmhouse without a book to sell, right, doing readings out of her farmhouse with her 17 animals, to somebody who has a New York Times bestseller. I think that talent and intuition and psychic, medium, all of these labels, psychic of all of them, makes people think, that's weird. But it should be intuitive, because that's something that we all have. We are all born intuitive. It's just a matter of whether we want to build that muscle up and develop it. So it's unfortunate, Dave, that so many people are, judgmental of just the word psychic or medium or paranormal. But the truth of the matter is it's happening more and more. Regular people at the grocery store are psychic and medium, and we better get on board or we're going to be looking in the rearview mirror going, what did I miss? I don't understand what everybody's talking about. And we can't go like that. You and I know this is happening. We have interviewed enough people to experience our own experiences, and that is what will change people, is when they actually have an experience that changes their belief system.
A lot of people don't understand out there how a newsroom works. You've been in a number of them. And a lot of people all out there believe that, right or wrong, and I've tried to argue the fallacy of this conspiracy theory, if we can call it that newsrooms are rigged, that news editors are told by government officials that you're not allowed to run certain stories, so on and so forth. In reality, I don't think a lot of people, because they've never worked in a newsroom, fully understand if they're listening to shows like this, or they're into the conspiratorial side or the UFO side or whatever side they are on. They don't understand how journalists really treat this subject. Do you think that mainstream journalism has really done a disservice to putting any effort into these alternative categories where people are having a lot of experiences and sightings?
Well, I think that there's a lot of evidence now with certain shows on the National Geographic Channel and the History Channel, Ancient Aliens, UFOs, all of these shows are very credible and research-oriented, right? This is important stuff. And now, the Vatican comes out even acknowledging, the Pope acknowledges that for centuries, the healers, the mediums, the psychics are now actually part of these texts, and they are actually healers, and they are okay, and they are legitimate. So what happens with our society, and I think with the news business too, the news business is run on fear. Every headline that you see is because somebody saw it run somewhere else. When I worked for CBS, they would sit and watch all of the TV channels of ABC, NBC, WGN, Fox, all of the affiliates in Chicago, and who had what story, what was their lead. Oh my gosh, they're out there at that story. We better get there. It's like the fear of missing out is FOMO. It's huge in all newsrooms. And if somebody thinks they're missing out on a story, by golly, they'll get somebody out there quick, even if nothing is happening. But if everybody else is there, they'll get there. So that is where I feel like this will happen. When everybody else starts saying they've seen a UFO, when somebody credible who's a CEO says, I saw a UFO, then maybe it'll be okay, right? When an FBI person says they saw a UFO, there's so many instances of people who have come out and written books who worked in the government talking about Area 51 and all of the sightings. The Canadian government also talking about the fact that we are not alone. There's proof and evidence of extraterrestrial, you know this, right? But it's not advertised. It's not a headline. And so just like we saw in that movie Spotlight, the movie about all the corruption and the Catholic Church in Boston. Do you remember that one? I think it was last year or the year before, won Best Picture of the Academy Awards. Those stories were coming out in trickles for decades about the priests that were molesting people, but it was buried in the back of the paper on the last page. It was reported on, but it was not highlighted. And that is what's happening here. These stories are not being highlighted. While they are being reported on, they aren't making the front page. And we have to do our due diligence to be really, really thorough on what we are putting on the front page. And so that is what I try to do with my book, is to say, look, this is what happened. This is the fact. This is how it played out. And I'm not making this up. So now what do you believe? And that's what we have to do. It's when people start putting in all of these opinions that people discount it and say, oh, that's a fraud, or oh, that's made up. But I have to tell you, in my experience in the news business, never once, and I worked in a lot of newsrooms, and I worked as a columnist for the Chicago Tribune, which is a big paper. Nothing that you read and nothing that you see is objective. That is the truth. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. And here's why. Everything is edited, except for a radio show like this. Everything is edited. I would hand in a column. I would give them 3,000 words. They would pare it down to 1,200. So an editor decided what was the most important 1,200 words from that story. When I handed in my news package at night, it would be 3.5 minutes. They would cut it down to 2 minutes. They decided what were the most important sound bites from that fire or that hit and run. So nothing is truly objective. It's all edited down. It's all subjective. And that is what we're fighting against here.
I don't want to spend too much time on the media because I do want to get to the real reason why you're here, but I'm going to be honest with you. It's very rare that I have an Emmy Award-winning journalist on this show. So I would like to ask you one more question, because this weekend in Provincetown, Massachusetts, I'm going to actually be speaking at Paracon there, the Provincetown Paracon, first annual, and the topic I'm actually speaking of is paranormal media. And the question that I love to ask journalists, because I love this opinion, a lot of times when it comes to the strange and weird, the mainstream is dropping the ball. And I think back to John Podesta, when he left President Obama's White House to join Hillary's campaign. He had it in his contract that basically said, Hillary, you need to disclose about UFOs if you're elected. That's the only way I will help you. And she agreed to that. So he sends out a tweet on February 13th, 2015 that basically says, finally, my biggest regret of 2014 was not securing the hashtag disclosure of the UFO files. Hashtag the truth is still out there. Here we have the one of the highest ranking civilians in the country basically saying, if you read between the lines, as us reporters are supposed to do, saying the UFO files are there, they are real, I apologize, I cannot get them out, they won't let me. And nobody except the Huffington Post even took on that story. And yet the way I look at it, as I've explained on this show many a times, is next to Jesus Christ himself coming down from the heavens, wouldn't UFOs and aliens be the second biggest story in mankind's history? And nobody ran with it.
Exactly. And here's why. I think it's because of the fear, again, what I talked about with fear, the fear of the mass panic that would ensue from all the people who are not educated and terrified and looking for leaders that they can understand and wrap their head around. It is too scary. The thought is it would terrify the globe and cause mass chaos. They don't trust that we can handle the truth. They don't trust it. They don't trust that the evidence that's presented wouldn't cause major panic. Also, I mean, it's like, why isn't green energy an absolute? Why are we still dependent on gas and oil? We know we have electric cars that are way more efficient. Oh, but all these people will lose their jobs. Oh, but it will save our planet. Oh, no, that's just an opinion. I mean, no, it's not. It's a fact. And so there are all these facts that we could move forward with, but we are not moving forward with because of the system that's in place, of the fear that's behind it. And I remember this with the tobacco industry, the movie The Insider with Russell Crowe. I did the interviews for that movie and interviewed Russell Crowe, and he played, the real story about the man who blew the whistle on the tobacco companies, and they almost put a hit out on this guy because of the fact that he was going to completely blow up a system that had a lot of money at stake, and that's what it's all down to. It's money, it's fear, and it's because they don't think that we can handle it. That whole line of Jack Nicholson, you can't handle the truth. It's so true in so many ways, and that's why I think it's been prevented from getting out there in mass. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I guess the way I look at it is our job as journalists, Jen, is to get the story, to break that story, to run with the story. Now, I know I mainly worked in sports, which is much different than hardcore news, but this story was right there. It was right there for the handout. Podesta would have probably spoken about it because he was very vocal during the election about hitting up Hillary with the aliens question. And it wasn't until May of 2016 that a couple of reporters for about 4 or 5 days actually were drilling her about it. But when you have someone that high up, I just can't believe that any journalist whatsoever would look at that and say, there's no story there. There's no story there.
Yeah.
Podesta's wacky. Why would he bring that up?
Right. Exactly. And so it's the same thing with my dipping into the paranormal and going and talking with mediums and psychics. Oh, look, Jen's on the woo-woo train. There she goes. This is fascinating, and people are curious, and I get hundreds of emails, as I'm sure you do, with people wanting to talk about this. You have all the listeners that want to inhale this information. We're hungry to know what's really going on. I tell people I am trying on a daily basis to explain the unexplainable, which is really hard to do. But so many people are stuck in their comfort zones, and they are also afraid of losing their job. I mean, when I was working in the news business, I mean, it was a daily struggle to try to get any sort of coverage of this subject. Dr. Mary Neal, who wrote the book To Heaven and Back, an orthopedic surgeon, and she was dead for 30 minutes, and she is alive today, a living miracle. had a near-death experience. This was a fascinating story because this woman was not at all in the paranormal. She's like, I'm a pragmatist, I'm a scientist, this is not my bag. But she survived it. And I went to my bosses and said, this is a real story. This woman was dead for 30 minutes. Her husband, also a surgeon, could confirm this. You know, this is her story. It's amazing. And they were like, nope, don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Too weird. Too weird. Nope, it's not newsworthy. Nobody cares. Nobody cares? This woman is a Christian. There's 250 million Christians. Well, why do you mean there's no audience? There's no audience because they were afraid. They were afraid. Fear is stopping all of this information from getting out there on these mainstream media outlets. That's all it is.
And it's sad because I think what it's doing is it's putting the clamps on some very important journalism that is out there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, whether it's aliens, whether it's spirituality, whether it's, you know, children jaywalking across the road on a dangerous intersection to get to school, the story still needs to be told no matter what the topic is. That is our job. That is our outlet. And I'm sure you would agree when I say this. The job of us journalists is to be the lawyer, the police officer, the voice of those who cannot have a voice. And it seems like this new generation of journalists coming out, and I've talked to Ian Punnett about this. I talked to your good friend about this, John St. Augustine, just a couple of weeks ago about this. It seems these new journalists, what they're worried about is how is their hair, how does their style look, and let's go with infotainment rather than real news.
No, those are news anchors. Those aren't journalists. Journalists are in the trenches. Journalists get cold waiting for a source, meaning like standing outside waiting for a source, that kind of get cold. Journalists dig under the hood and go for the jugular in a good way, not for a fascinating way. But today's news mostly are just anchors. They're talking heads. They are, like you said, they're caring more about how they look in the live shot than what they're presenting to the viewer with the facts. And it's unfortunate. Everybody likes to hang their hat on the hook and say they're a journalist just because they have a blog. You know, I sat on a panel with a bunch of different, quote, journalists, and one of those panelists, unfortunately, I guess it's necessary, but blogs about makeup and cosmetics. I would like to think that I'm at a different tier because I got an Emmy for CBS, but she's a journalist because she blogs about compacts and eyeshadow? How did that happen? So that word journalist I put very loosely in quotes these days because I don't think you should have that title if you haven't actually worked in a real newsroom or for a real news outlet at some capacity delivering real news. And, you know, today what real news is unfortunately, it's fascinating headlines and things to terrify you. When we did have a big headline with Donald Trump firing the, guy from the FBI. I mean, that was a big headline. That's real news. How everybody reported it was always fascinating and still remains fascinating to me to just flip around the channels and see how everybody interprets one story. It's just amazing. But no, today's millennials and young journalists, for the most part, it's a cosmetic situation, who looks good on camera, and that's just the way it is. It's no longer about, I mean, when I grew up watching TV news, you know, these people were not pretty people. They were wonderful journalists. But it wasn't about who had the best smile, by no means.
I fully understand, and I knew when I started in Vancouver in 2001 at the all news station there. One of the things, about 3-4 months after I was hired, our news director got fired, the guy who hired me, and this new guy can't come in. And he started talking about this new fandangled word called infotainment. He said, we're not a news station anymore. We provide infotainment. And the sad part about it was the listeners ate it up. Our numbers saw us jump 5 long-time radio stations in Vancouver in order to show some respectability. And it was sad. Right. Our journalists were cringing at that point. Cringing, having to cover the stories of the day back then. I mean, it was Britney going nuts. That was the big one, right? That was the
sure, yeah.
But it's just sad because the public, in the end, are the people who suffer.
Right. I mean, let's take that United Airlines story where the guy was dragged and beaten off a plane. That's happened before. We just didn't have cell phones to document it. But you bet your butt, if you looked at you could go back into the complaints of any airline and find that customers have been mistreated to the point where they've been violently taken off of a plane. But we just didn't have a way to document it when it happened. This is not the first time that has happened. It's just now everybody's a journalist because everyone's got a phone camera and they can just take a video and suddenly it goes viral and there you have it. So that is what's happening now. Everybody claims to be a journalist just because they have an iPhone.
That I agree. Or Periscope, or YouTube channels, or even a podcast, or an online radio show like we do. The ability to have a voice now is more than ever, and that can be a good thing, but it can be a dangerous thing nonetheless. But let's start to switch sides now, because you said something very interesting in regards to, when people would say, oh, there's Jen wanting to do another woo-woo type story out there, that is the perception that a lot of us get. So how do you, as an Emmy Award-winning journalist, command the respectability of also being psychic, intuitive, and learning about your inner self?
Well, I am not a psychic. I don't hang a shingle and tell people that I am intuitive. I believe we all can build our intuition, and I'm actively trying to do that every day, as I suggest everybody do. It's kind of like going to the gym. I'm trying to stay in shape intuitively. So every day I try to exercise that muscle with some simple exercises. Echo Bodine, one of the people I've interviewed recently and put in my book, she has 11 books out on the subject of all of this, and she wrote a book called Still Small Voice. She believes our intuition is that still small voice that we hear, that it's like a bird flying in front of our car. It just goes whoosh out of nowhere. And if we pay attention to those, we can really connect the dots. And so I've been trying to pay attention to those little moments, that still small voice inside, and give it a bigger voice. And so, for me, I just go by my intuition, and I tell people all the time, guess what? Conrad Hilton, of Hilton Hotels, went by his intuition, and it was acceptable because he called it the Hilty Hunch. He didn't say, hey, everybody, I'm psychic. I'm Conrad Hilton. So, we can language things to be acceptable, and that's what I encourage people to do. You can be psychic, quote unquote, but call yourself intuitive so people don't laugh at you and push you out of the room or not let you sit at the table. So it's unfortunate that we have to do this, but we do, because if we want to continue to have these dialogues, you have to sort of play both sides a little bit. I'm not saying that you have to not be who you are. Raise that flag and be exactly who you are, but have some evidence to back it up. So for me, with developing my intuition lately, I've been I'm a Reiki master, and I do reflexology and massage. This is a side thing that I studied when my father was getting cancer treatments, and I wanted to try to help him through his radiation and so forth. We called it the combo platter. You can go to modern medicine for your radiation and your chemo, and then I'm going to help you with the woo-woo side with my Reiki and, reflexology, and help you with the side effects. And so I have recently been doing more energy work, Reiki, on people and massage and reflexology, and I recently was working on a woman, and I don't know this woman, but I just asked to open my intuition, and if I was going to get a message for this person, that it be communicated. That's it. I'm a communicator. I'm a storyteller. So help me tell a story if this woman needs to hear something, but otherwise I'm just going to do the work. And so what happened was I ended up seeing this image of something that was completely relevant to her, that was her dad's handkerchief that he basically was buried with in his coffin, which is just mind-boggling, right? I mean, I have no idea how I knew this, but I tapped into it. So I tell people that story to say this can happen to anyone. Anybody can develop their intuition. That is a fact. That story I didn't make it up. It's gathering facts. So we have to arm ourselves, Dave, with facts, not just with opinions, but with circumstances. And that's what I try to do in my writing. Fact after fact after fact, so that people can't discount it and say, oh, that's just weird. No, it actually happened, and here's how. So I think that's the difference here. In my journalism world, when I meet my colleagues and they say, oh, well, tell me something that you've done lately, Jen, I'll come up with these situations that I believe have very strong facts attached to them with interviews that I've done, so that I can stand on solid ground instead of just say, oh, I thought I heard a noise. Maybe it was an alien. Maybe it was my dead grandma. I don't know. What do you think? It's got to have more grounding than that.
Absolutely, and everybody does need to get in touch. And I'll tell you, I had a scary moment when I learned about that little voice that you were just talking about. Back in 2013, my wife was pregnant with our son, and she couldn't go ATVing with us, and I hadn't ATV'd and took my quad out all winter, and I was like, man, I got to just get out riding. And my wife couldn't come, and I ended up going with a couple of people whom I'd ridden with before, but really hadn't, you know, they were acquaintances, not friends, if you know what I'm saying. And the entire ride up to the mountain, I heard that little voice, turn around. Today is not a good day to ride. Turn around. Do not ride today. You're riding with people you don't really know. Just turn around. And this went on for the entire drive up there. And I was like, no, I was stubborn. I hadn't ridden in months. I wanted to get out in the fresh air and ride. And so I got in there. I unloaded my ATV. 20 minutes into the ride, I hit a washout. And my bike... My ATV came right over top of me. I bailed off of it. My ATV landed on top of me, which I luckily enough, it didn't even touch me because I was in this V of a washout, and my bike ended up rolling 150 feet down a mountainside, 200 feet down a mountainside, and absolutely destroying it. And the silly part about it was, I always put rider's insurance on it, but I didn't, for some stupid reason, I didn't put my bike insurance on. Because I wasn't one of these bad, horrific riders. Like, I rode with a lot of caution. But it was just one of those situations. And then I thought the entire way home, after we got my bike back up the mountain and winched it up, it took us 3 hours to get it up the mountain and then back down the mountain in order to get it to my vehicle. And when I tied it up and I winched it up, I thought, I will never, ever not listen to that voice again. I mean, that could have killed me. And it is so important, like you say, to listen to that little voice. I like to call it the soul voice. And, you know, because you read all these memes, you know, listen to your heart. Your heart will never steer you wrong. Well, the last time I checked, hearts can break. But your soul is the only thing that is still connected to a higher source or God or higher power, whatever you want to call it. So why wouldn't you listen to that rather than your heart or your brain, which could steer you in different directions?
True. But I have to tell you, in defense of the heart, which is 5 times stronger than any organ in the body, there is all this evidence from people who have had heart transplants where they received the heart from somebody else and they wake up craving the meal that was had by the heart transplant, the person who gave them the heart. Case in point, a woman, a nurse, woke up and was craving fried chicken and loved country music. The person whose heart she received was a truck driver who had just had fried chicken and loved country music. This is true. These are documented cases. So there's an imprint that's made on the heart. I agree. It can be broken, and it's not the soul, but it's still pretty damn cool.
Oh, I get you there. But, I mean, it does still express, though, Jen, that people have to open up. And it's their choice whether or not they want to. Some people are just so closed that they may never have that experience. I think of my father in that type of regard, because he is just a 5 senses guy. I take my mother, who grew up uber religious, and she won't have anything about it because she still has that religious doctrine in her head. You know, in the meantime, I'm trying to figure out why the hell all my experiences happen to me. So when you're at a loss for words trying to figure it out, it can be tough, especially when you're dealing with people who just will not unlock themselves.
Well, that's the problem, unlocking. So a skeptic is good. You have to be skeptical to have a healthy, a healthy skeptic can be okay, really. A cynic is the problem. A cynic shuts down all receptors and they will not let in new information. I mean, that is just where they're completely blocked and there is nothing that you can tell them. Someone who's skeptical is still open to the possibility, but they need to have an experience that changes their belief system, and then they can be open and no longer mostly skeptical, in my experience. Now, as for the religious folk, and I have had a lot of experience with this, with people coming to me and saying, I'm going straight to hell for even doing these interviews that I do in the paranormal space, I tell them that they are not reading the Bible. because Corinthians is all about the gifts of the Spirit, and Jesus saying, greater things than this you will do. Greater gifts than these you will have. He wanted to empower us to develop our own intuition. It was all not about him and only he can heal. It was about how we can also heal, and we can do this too. And the medium stuff is all over the Bible. I'm very proud to report a Roman Catholic priest told me very many instances throughout the Bible where they're calling on mediums to get guidance from Saul, from Samuel, whatever it is. When they're going to fight wars, they need the guidance. They're calling on angels to fight wars with them. You know, if people are saying that this stuff goes against the Bible, then they are not reading the Bible, and they need a tutorial on what it actually is. It's the gypsies and the seers that people put above God. That is when, a lot of people say this work is bad. And I would agree, and a lot of people I interview agree with that. If you put anything above your relationship to Source, the divine, your soul, then you have a problem. So you shouldn't put any medium, any alien, any psychic, any healer, nothing should be above your relationship to the divine. That comes first. Everything else can follow. And that is what has been misinterpreted. You know, we talked about fear earlier. Misinterpretation of facts is the greatest problem that we have right now with gathering information. Because I got news for you. Jesus did not have a typewriter, a digital phone recorder, a pen. They chiseled things onto templates in stone when he was around. They told stories when he was around. And stories can be altered by opinion of the storyteller. So for us to think we know exactly what Jesus said is the most ridiculous thing anybody can think or say with absolute knowing, because we just don't know. We weren't there. And it wasn't documented exactly. The Bible didn't fall out of the sky in its written form like my grandmother would like to think. It just didn't.
Absolutely. And I would fully agree with you on that. So when you started investigating all of this spirituality, was it an experience that you had on your own, Jen, that led you to this? Was it a lifelong journey, or was it just something of intrigue because you were hearing so many of these different stories in the newsroom that you figured there had to be something to it?
It was a combination. So the first experience I ever had with anybody in the paranormal space was when I was taken to see a psychic, and she was in the countryside, out, an hour and a half outside of Chicago. A friend said, let's just go for fun. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm up for a road trip for fun. Let's do it. And she managed to tell me things that was not possible to search. And this was before Google. And, AOL had just been invented, so it was a while ago. So it's not like anyone could do heavy digging. And she only knew my first name. She didn't know my last. And she literally pinpointed my coworker, the guy I was dating. I mean, everything. It was really, really. And I just kept asking my friend, you must have told her stuff. You must have told her stuff. I couldn't wrap my head around it. It was one of those experiences that I was having trouble understanding. And so what she told me before I left was, she said, I do this thing called psychometry where I can hold on to a piece of jewelry from somebody who's passed away, and then I can see if I can get messages from that person. And I thought that was fascinating. My dad was grieving the loss of his mother 10 years after she'd passed. And I told him at dinner about it, just sort of in passing. And I had also just read the book Talking to Heaven by James Van Praagh. So I shared that book with my dad, and he was like, I don't know, Jen, it's a little weird. My dad was also a journalist. And so we were talking about the psychometry stuff. And I said, if you want to reach out to your mom, Dad, she says she can do it if you just bring her ring. To my total surprise, he said, let's go see her. I'm like, huh? He's like, don't tell anybody, but let's go see her. So we did, and she brought through this really incredible, clear message to my dad that seemed to give him a lot of relief. And it was then that I realized that grief was paralyzing. If you're stuck in grief, it can really prevent you from growing, because you really, if you're so sad you don't think that there's more going on than what you can see or understand, it can be paralyzing. And so that was when I saw the value of what someone like a psychic or a medium could do. I thought, this is really healing. Look at what this does. Oh, my goodness. And then my dad becomes sick with a brain tumor and dies at the age of 56, just a few years after that experience. And I was left with my grief, going, well, what the heck? Where is he? Geez. And I wanted to know if maybe I could find somebody who could give me a message that would give me some relief. And I set out on the quest, and I've been doing interviews for 15 years ever since.
Do you find that the love of this journey, wherever it's going to take you, because the beautiful part about it is there is no end. That the love is still there, that you don't feel like a journalist. You almost feel like a kid in a candy store looking for that new fancy piece of candy to grab, because there is always some sort of new theory or new idea behind absolutely everything that happens. And let's face it, some are far out there. But other ones, Jen, they're very inquisitive, and they make you think. They make you think
They
a lot.
do. And here's the thing. I just had an experience over the weekend. I mean, every time I meet a healer that shows me something new, or a psychic or a medium that practices different than somebody I've seen before, I'm always, like you said, a kid in the candy store. I just love to watch it. However, we have to remember that we can't give up all of our power to a psychic. Like, some people are so dependent on psychics. I've interviewed many psychics who say, I actually have to turn clients down because they get so dependent they can't interview for a job without calling me first. It's like, come on. Tap into your own intuition. You know what to do here. You know how to handle this. You know if a guy is right for you or not. You just trust your gut. Come on, go inside. You can do this. So, unfortunately, people get too reliant. But I love it when I meet somebody who shows me something that I can't see in myself. You know, we all need that reflector reflecting back to us. Like, Jen, you got some basil in your teeth. You know, oh, I didn't see it. Thanks for showing me. So over the weekend, I went to see this healer, and she was fascinating. You know, so my brother had found her, and my brother, also a journalist, he's a news anchor in St. Louis, you know, not exactly going to psychic fairs. He said, I found this healer. You've got to meet her. She's from Guatemala. I felt so incredible afterwards. You must experience this. I'm like, oh, boy, sure, bring it on. You know who you're talking to. And I was on the table. She worked on me for an hour and a half. Again, extremely psychic. She knew every part of my body that was in pain. I have this pain on the left side. She went right to it. I didn't even tell her. She just targeted it right away. And I said, how did you do that? She said, well, I'm looking at your body, and it's like a map. It's showing me what's hot. It's showing me what's cold. It's showing me what's in pain. It's showing me what's in harmony. You know, I would love to look through this woman's lens, because whatever she was seeing was spot on, and I didn't have to speak. So I love experiencing that, because you just never know when you're going to run into an experience like that that's showing you something different that you had not experienced before.
Do you find, as you started studying this more, that you found yourself opening up more as well to experiences that you never thought were even possible, or maybe thought ridiculous?
Oh, sure. I mean, I never, ever thought I would be sitting down having a conversation with someone about past lives I had with a coworker. Like, what? How does that have any relevance to now? And it has so much relevance, because if you find out that you have these patterns over and over and over again, I mean, I believe our soul comes back to try to sort of overcome all of these fears and challenges that we put in our way. We put up these obstacles so that we can face them and not be afraid of them. And if we choose to not face these problems and move on and just hide or hibernate, they will show up in a different costume with a different person. You know, I'll give you an example. I have a friend who, whenever she has a boss that argues with her, she just quits and goes and finds another job because she can't stand conflict. But part of her soul lesson and her life journey is to stand up for herself. And the moment she decided that she was going to stand up for herself and say, hey, I'm worth something. My opinion matters. I'm of value here. Then everything shifted, and her job was fine. And she was happy, and her boss was respectful. So sometimes we're faced with all these challenges, and we need to actually work through them. Otherwise, they're just going to keep showing up. And that can be shown to us through a past life regression, which many medical doctors have done. Many have recommended. Of course, I'm sure you've heard of Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters, a Yale, professor who came out with his hypnosis techniques of going into past lives to help people through their phobias. So this is very real. The research is there. It just needs to be talked about more often.
What was the biggest change in yourself that you saw, or maybe in your environment, as you started to open your eyes a little bit more?
The clairsentience. So the, clear hearing, or sensing rather. Clairaudience is with clear hearing, but a sensing, trusting that inner GPS, like we talked about, that still small voice. For me, if I get panicked about something now, instead of reaching for the answer somewhere else, I get quiet, I go within, I breathe into my heart, I try to get centered, and I picture turning on my third eye like a light switch, like, okay, guide me accordingly. Where do I need to go here? What do I need to do? I know the answer. It's within. Help me find it. That is the biggest shift for me. That is the biggest change. I was one of those people that thought I had to reach outside of myself for the answer, whether it was to call a source, call a friend, call a trusted advisor. I didn't think I had the answer within, and now I really trust that it's given to me, and I can pull it up. So I think that would be the biggest thing that has shifted in me over these 15, 16 years of doing this research, is to trust my own intuition first, and then if I'm really blocked and really blinded, then I can try to find somebody else, a different practitioner who might be able to help me flesh it out.
How long did it take for you to actually trust yourself in regards to your spirituality?
Oh, I think I still have moments every day where I'm human and don't trust and wonder and doubt. Faith is one thing, and then when faith shifts into trust, that usually it comes from, some sort of life-changing experience, right? Which I've had. I mean, I've seen a healer wipe his hand across my son and clear out all of his acid reflux when he was 2.5 years old. I mean, it was just, what? I mean, how do you explain that? I don't know, but my son is now no longer suffering from acid reflux. It's like, wow. So I've seen things that are hard to explain. So that helps me go from just believing that something might be going on to having trust. But it's the knowing that is the bigger challenge for me, Dave. So when trust goes from trust to knowing, just an absolute knowing that there is something out there watching over me for my highest good. If I tap into it, I will be guided accordingly. That's where I get tripped up. I think the trust is pretty big right now in my life on a daily basis, but knowing, that takes an unbelievable leap, and I can't get there all the time. I wish I could.
I got a question coming in on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio from Deb. And Deb is asking, Jen, have you ever used healing on people? And if so, have you ever saved anyone?
Oh, no, I've never saved anyone. I could never say I've saved anyone. I've seen other people have incredible healings. I've witnessed John of God do incredible healings. But no, I can never say that I was one of those people. I don't have that gift. I do, like I said, Reiki, massage. I do like to put in some energy where I can. But from all I know at this point, Deb, is I've given a little relief and helped with some nausea post-chemotherapy, and maybe given one little message to somebody about her dad's handkerchief that brought through some healing. But so far, no saving.
All right, I'm going to sneak in one more question here, as we got about 2.5 minutes before we have to go to break. This one comes from Ron on the flat plains of Saskatchewan, Canada, where you can see your dog running for 100 miles. They never run away. And Ron is asking, he's saying, I suppressed much when I was young, and it scared me. Also malevolent issues. Can I awaken the good side now and control what visits me?
Yes and yes. I truly believe that we have control over what visits us, and that the fear actually attracts the dark. So when you stand in your power and say, no darkness is welcome here, only the light for my highest good, so help me God, or whatever you believe in, come Holy Spirit, do your own version of Control, Alt, Delete. But fear attracts dark, and dark shows up when it thinks it has an audience. My son deals with this all the time, and we can talk about this in the next hour. He's highly intuitive. He's been able to see my dead dad since he was 2 years old. And he also has trouble with his filters on what's okay to see and what's not. He's been working with a couple people I've interviewed to help him with that. And I think we do have the control. It's just hard because we have these fears that are built in through our childhood that we have to try to wash away. It takes work, but it's very doable.
Isn't it just the strangest thing watching your kids go through intuition and their own abilities?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All three of mine are tapped
Woohoo.
in. My oldest daughter, she's 18, and she has been seeing dead people since she was about 1.5, 2 years old. Mm-hmm. She had a little girl who would go into her bedroom and play with her toys. And Yeah, you use the, kids with imagination or whatever, until I woke up one night and the little girl was standing right beside me, and I realized that my daughter was sleeping on my arm. That was kind of
there you go.
Absolutely. My stepdaughter, around 7, 8 years old, was having conversations with the gentleman who built our old house. He had died. We were the second owners of the house.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Did he like you?
He did. And his wife loved us. And, they were married 60-some years. He was a Canadian World War II veteran. And the strange part about it was, one day she comes up, she goes, "There was a man in my room last night." Oh, okay. And, as a dad, you get a little freaked out. And then she says, his name was Granddad, and he was 83 years old. Find out from my realtor. Immediately called up my realtor, whom we bought the house off of. I said, "What was the guy's name?" Finds out the name was Gordon, and he died 3 weeks shy of his 83rd birthday.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that was very interesting. And now our little guy, well, I'll get to that right after the break, because we're about to step out here momentarily. You know how it is. We got to tease in this business. We got to tease.
Of course.
With the story, because I want to hear all about your son as well. Jenniffer Weigel is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. She is an Emmy Award-winning journalist. She is a very talented author with 4 books on the go. You can find them all in any major bookstore, on Amazon. Stay tuned. I'm spiritual, damn it. This isn't the life I ordered. And psychics, healers, and mediums, a journalist, a road trip, and a voice from the other side. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott. Hour number 2, right after this. Coming September 29th to October 1st, the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon. Hi, this is Dave Scott. The event will be held at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Come join us for an amazing weekend of speakers talking all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Sasquatch, intuitiveness. Listen to great speakers like Miriam Delicato, Samantha Mowat, and the crypto guru Ronald Murphy. Get your VIP passes by going to spacedoutradio.com and clicking on the Paracon banner. Come to BC, where the paranormal is waiting for you.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up, enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Tomorrow night through Monday, Uncle Jimbo James Tyson is going to be in the hot seat in the cabin. Tomorrow night, Elizabeth April will be in. Our newest monthly contributor, Elizabeth April. She'll be talking about everything from spiritual contact to how to get in touch with you. It's going to be a great show starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. I will be on my way to the airport in Vancouver for an early morning flight to head out to Boston for the Provincetown Paracon this weekend in Provincetown, Massachusetts. I hope all of you on the East Coast could make your way to that event and meet up with me as well, because I want to meet you. So make sure you come say hello at our booth. I speak at noon Eastern on Paranormal Media. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on our terrestrial radio stations, WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are also live on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We're live on Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, KTLK, The Fringe FM. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. No Bill Cardwell tonight. He is on the injured reserve, so we don't have a password for tonight for the SOR Space Travelers Club, so you're not unlocking any mysteries tonight. Bill will hopefully be back in the lineup very, very soon. We want to mention to you, if you're a social media junkie like I am, make sure you follow us on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio, like Deb, Robert, John, and the rest of you. Les, I know you're hiding in there as well. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show on iTunes. We're also on TalkStream Live, Player.fm, RadioGuide.fm, Stitcher. Our website is SpacedOutRadio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for as low as $5 a month, and read up on the encounter online. Our news section put together by our editors, Everett Thiemer and Eric Markham. Tonight, we are talking with Jenniffer Weigel. She is an Emmy Award-winning journalist out of Chicago. She is also an amazing author of 4 books. Let me read down the list. Stay tuned. I'm Spiritual, Damn It. This Isn't the Life I Ordered, and Psychics, Healers, and Mediums, a journalist, a road trip, and a voice from the other side. Her website, Jen Weigel, Weigel spelled WEIGEL.com. Jen, welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, right before the break, we were talking about our kids here and their spiritual enlightenment. My stepdaughter, since we moved into northern British Columbia here, she actually sees fairies. She'll go out into our backyard or into the green belt behind our home, and when it's dark and dusk, I don't really like it because I'm not worried about strangers coming up and grabbing her. That doesn't worry me. I mean, we got a lot of animals that can kill up here. From bears to cougars to deer to moose to wolves. There's a lot of animals up here that can do some pretty good damage. But she goes out in the green belt in the middle of the night, and she'll sit there and she'll tell stories about how she'll be surrounded by fairies when she's out there, and it's just amazing thing. And then my little guy, who's 3, we didn't know if he was connected or not until a couple of months ago. My wife actually caught him and our dog staring at the doorway in between our kitchen and the hall that takes a path towards our bedrooms. So my wife kind of just quietly looked over into the doorway, and she said there was this purple hue around the door, and there was what she considered an alien standing there in a spiritual form, and my little guy was seeing it and watching it. So she just watched him watch this encounter. So now we know he is seeing too. Your son, who is 11 years old, also sees. You mentioned that. How did you react the first time you heard that your son was actually seeing spirits on the other side?
Well, the first time was he was about 2 years old, and I heard him in the baby monitor kind of jabbering, and it was past bedtime. And so I went upstairs to check on him, and he was just laughing and pointing to the ceiling. And I said, "Sweetie, what's going on?" And he just points up, and he says, "That guy." And I said, "What guy?" And he says, "Right there." And he points to nothing. He says, "He gives me fireworks. He's so nice." I'm like, "Okay, great, go to bed." So a couple of days later, he's playing in the basement, and he stops in his tracks, and he points to a picture of my dad, who died 5 years before he was born, and he says, "Mommy, there's the guy." And I said, "What guy?" And he said, "The guy who gives me fireworks. He comes at night. He's so nice." And I said, "Oh, wow." And I got all choked up. I said, "That's your grandpa." And he says, "My grandpa? Where is he?" And I said, "He's with the angels." And so there was that. So a few nights later, he's laughing again in the baby monitor, like hardcore giggling. And I go up there, and he says, "Grandpa's tickling me and smacking my butt." And my dad had this thing where he always smacked our butts. Like, we were just not safe. Even when I was graduating college, he still had to give me a whack. I think if he were alive today, he would be sued, but that's a different story. So, for my son to say this, it was just amazing. And so then I wrote about that in my second book, I'm Spiritual Damn It, and I was flooded, Dave, just flooded with emails from other parents saying, thank you for talking about this. This happens to my child, or my daughter, had no idea that grandma died, and we kept it from her because we didn't want to upset her, and she woke up in the middle of the night and said Nana came to her and said she's with the angels, and she was wearing her pink dress, and, all these stories. They just went on and on and on. And I was glad that I wrote about it because it gave these people sort of an outlet. And I have to tell you, in my latest book that just came out, Psychics, Healers, and Mediums, a lot of these people that I interview with these psychic gifts say that they were thought of as weird or that their parents didn't embrace it. I mean, Thomas John, the Manhattan medium, he was locked in a closet, not fed, put in the basement. I mean, his dad was nuts anyway, admittedly so. He talks about it very openly, but his dad tried to punish him because of his intuitive gifts. And Judith Orloff, best-selling author of Positive Energy, she's highly psychic and intuitive, and her parents institutionalized her. So, I mean, it's really unfortunate that we have such a fear of something we can't completely understand. So I was glad that I wrote about it so that other people felt safe sharing those stories with me.
It's amazing what kids will see and tell you in stories if you just let them speak, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And my son, now that he's getting older and he knows that other kids don't talk about this, and his dad doesn't really like to talk about it, so he feels like around me it's safe, but he knows that that's a limited audience, and that makes me sad because it's like he's hiding a part of who he is. And he said the other day, Mom, I'm always making that up anyway just to make you proud. And I said, kiddo, you didn't know what that meant at the age of 2. Don't try to back out of this. It's too late. You're in too deep. But that's just the way he's trying to compartmentalize it and make sense of it, because it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is kind of scary. And I know he still has a relationship with my dad. I know that he also tries to block it out. And like we talked about before the break about dark energies, and that gentleman who asked the question about dark energies, my son saw a dark spirit in his bedroom, and it scared him. And so I called on the brother-sister ghost-busting team, Echo and Michael Bodine, who I interviewed in my latest book, brother and sisters from Minneapolis, and they've had the gift since they were 17 and 7, respectively, and now they're in their 50s and 60s. So they've been doing this for, a few decades. And they FaceTimed with my son so he could learn that no dark energies are allowed. If you say you are not allowed, you must leave. And, he basically put up the boundary and said, you're not welcome here. This is full of love and light. Unless you're here for my highest good, you must go. I command you to leave in the name of God. And that's what they told him to say. And he said it, and it seemed to make this darkness dissipate. And he hasn't had that experience since. So now we seem to be okay. But, that's not the kind of Skype or rather FaceTime that I think everybody has at 7 o'clock on a Sunday, but it was for us.
Oh, I'm not going to lie. That's happened in our household, too. Except that was happening with a couple of 40-somethings trying to learn what the heck was going on. Because, I mean, I don't think it really matters what age you are. When you start to learn, when you get hit with that door opening, and you're trying to figure out what it is you are seeing or what it is that is happening to you, it can be traumatic. And then when you involve children, when you know they are starting to see things as well, you get scared. It's like you don't really want to be going through this, but at times you don't have a choice, do you?
No, and so just what you said right there, it's like, oh, wait, this is happening to my child. I'm scared. That answers what you were asking earlier about why aren't we talking about aliens more mainstream? Because of the fear that was caused just like that with us, with our intuitive kids. Imagine taking this globally. There's proof of aliens. What? I mean, the fear that would ripple across everywhere. I truly think some of these people in power think they're doing us a favor. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I think that's the mentality of the widespread panic that would be caused by this kind of revelation.
So how do you tell people when people come up to you and say, I need some advice about what to do. I'm seeing things, or my child is starting to see things. Which direction do you push them through? How do you talk to them about that? This is okay. This is natural. This is something that everybody has. How do you walk them through that?
Well, just over the weekend, I was doing a book signing in St. Louis, Missouri, and this woman started talking to me about how she has suddenly become super intuitive, and she can hear the spirits talking to her. She said she put her hand on a restaurant doorknob and opened the door, and the voices started piling in. My name is Laura. My daughter's in the third booth. Can you please go talk to her? You know, there's a great movie called Ghost Town with Greg Kinnear and Ricky Gervais and Taya Leone. And if you haven't seen it, have you seen it, Dave?
I have not.
Okay, you must get that. Run, don't walk to the nearest Netflix and get that one, because it is so, you'll just so be able to relate to it. And a lot of the mediums that I've interviewed say that this is how it is. When your gift opens up suddenly, which it did for Ricky Gervais. Ricky Gervais was a dentist who's a cynic, and he doesn't care about anybody else but himself. He goes in for a basic surgery and has basically a near-death experience. He flatlines by accident. Kristen Wiig is in it as the doctor that accidentally kills him. And he comes back, and he's now suddenly a medium and a psychic. And all the dead people see him as this doorway to help their loved ones heal, right? And he just doesn't know what to do with it. He's terrified of it, and he doesn't like it. You know, finally, he ends up embracing it and realizing that these spirits actually need his help, and he wants to help them. So then they'll go away once he helps them. So this woman, in St. Louis is telling me about putting her hand on the restaurant doorknob, opening it, and hearing all these voices come flooding in. I think of an interview I did with Conchetta Bertoldi, who wrote the best-selling book, Do Dead People Watch You Shower? She's a very popular lady in the East Coast here in the United States, and she also wrote the best-selling book, Do Dead People Walk Their Dogs? Apparently they do. So she said that when she was a kid, she, too, was swarmed with all these ghosts in her room at the age of 15, and her dad came into her and said, honey, they are coming to you because they need your help. Because apparently her dad's dad was a medium, right? She didn't know this until she told her dad, hey, there's dead people in my bedroom. So her dad says, they want your help, and if you want to help them, then they will go. If you want to communicate with them, you have to learn how to use your gift and start to develop it. If you don't want to work with them, then just say, in the name of God, you must go. Please go. And say it over and over again. And she realized at the age of 15 she didn't want to be a medium. She wanted, to go to the school dance. So she told them all to leave. They did leave. And then when she was in her 20s, the gift came roaring back. And what I have learned from all my interviews is that if this is truly your calling, if your soul wants to do this work, it will keep coming back until you answer the call. It will keep coming back. It'll keep knocking on the door until you say, oh, come on in. I've been waiting for you. It's about time. So I think that what I tell people is, get educated about. A lot of books out there try to teach people to develop their intuition. I don't think there is one right way or one wrong way. We all have different ways of working. We all have different, gifts. Some of us are the gift of seeing, the gift of hearing, the gift of knowing, the gift of smelling and tasting. So I think you have to sort of decide what your gift is, and then pick and choose who calls to you. To me, Echo Bodine called to me. Her book, Still Small Voice, really spoke to me. But it might not speak to everybody. So you have to sort of do your research and start digging and start reading and see what you find and see what works for you.
When did you decide that it was the right time to start writing about these in novel form?
It's funny. I had no desire to write books. I didn't know how to write books. I was a journalist and I was a columnist, but I did not think I could do a book. I was like, what? And so I was actually telling these stories of my encounters. I went to Lilydale, New York. Have you heard of Lilydale?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I figured you would have. Just got to be sure. So I had gone on a road trip to Lilydale, the town of spiritualists, where the spiritualism movement was really kind of hustling and bustling in the mid-1800s. And I went on a road trip there, and I took with me an intuitive. That was really interesting. And I wrote about it in what I thought was going to be a magazine article. And I was telling a colleague of mine, and she had written 15 books. I mean, this woman is just out there, and she's writing all these books. And I'm just telling her about my little, quote, article that I think would be a good article, and maybe Vanity Fair would want it, or who knows? I was just thinking I would pitch it, and I had all these encounters with different bestsellers, James Van Praagh and Carolyn Mace and Deepak Chopra, and I had, again, written them like articles, thinking I was going to pitch them longer form stories. And my friend looked at me and she says, forget the article. You have a book here. And I was like, what? I have a what? She's like, just string them together. This is a story. This is a full journey. Write a book. And so once I wrapped my head around the possibility that maybe I could actually do this, I wrote the first one, and I have never looked back. Now I can't wait to write the next one. I'm super excited trying to construct it now as just as the days unfold. So once I got one under my belt, it was a much easier process, and now it's something I'm super passionate about.
I love the energy in your titles. Stay tuned. Nice journalism ring. And then I'm spiritual, damn it. How did you come up with that one?
Well, true story is I wanted to call my first book I'm Spiritual, Damn It, because I believe we can find God, source, spirituality, whatever it is, whether we're climbing a mountain or we are at a happy hour or we're in the shower. It doesn't matter. You could be loading the dishwasher and find source. And so it was sort of a play on words of like, hey, I'm spiritual, and I can say damn it, and God still loves me. You got it? So I wanted to call my first book I'm Spiritual, Damn It. And my publisher was so against it. He was like, there is no way you could get this on the air. There's just, there's just no way that publishers, nobody would want to buy it. You would never sell a book in the South. And I'm like, I don't care about the South. I just want to write from my heart. That's the title of the book. No, that was 2008. So a chapter was named I'm Spiritual, Damn It in my first book. Stay tuned. Then I come out with all this research, like I'm a journalist and I'm investigating the paranormal. Here it goes. I'm inundated with all these emails from people sharing their stories of the paranormal with me, and that gives me all the content for I'm Spiritual, Damn It, where I said to my publisher then, I'm putting my foot down. This is what we're calling it. And I guess because it was a few years later, he was a little bit more flexible. There were some best-selling books with swear words on the cover, so he could finally embrace it. And because it's spelled D-A-M-M-I-T, it's kind of a little wink to the swear word. So that's what came up with that. This Isn't the Life I Ordered was a book I wrote when I was going through my divorce, but I was also interviewing a lot of people who've experienced near-death experiences. So being the life you ordered was kind of the play on words with that. That's filled with people who had NDEs, as they like to call it. And then, of course, the last one is a compilation of interviews with psychics, healers, and mediums. So that is why that title is as it is.
Mm-hmm. It just seems like so much fun. Like you enjoyed naming these books because you went a little bit far-fetched because everybody looks for the drama or looks for that eye-catching title. You just went at it and said, this is what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the last book I wanted to ask, I was thinking of titling it, Is It Real? A Journalist Investigates Psychics, Healers, and Mediums. And then I was like, no, actually I don't, because of course it's real. But for the people who don't know if it's real, that might be able to grab them and they would grab it off the shelves. It's just one of those things where the journalist in me wants to still go for the story, right? I'm still questing. I'm still looking for facts and gathering evidence. And I just think that's the only way we're going to evolve. We have to keep doing it. Otherwise we would think the world is flat,
Oh, don't get my audience on the flat earthers. We had a beauty on here the other day, man. We had a beauty on here the other day. Yeah, it was interesting, to say the least. And I think there are many members of my audience that are still scratching their head. But hey, we had to tackle it. We had to tackle that topic. So we did.
Okay.
So now that you've investigated all of this spiritual side and you're starting to, well, more than believe, you're convinced that it's happening, do you still find yourself having a skeptical side to you that maybe this is some trick or maybe you're just not seeing the entire picture?
Well, I know I'm not seeing the entire picture. There are dimensions going on right now, alternate dimensions. We have no idea what's going on. We're using, 4% of our brain on a good day, according to science, maybe 5%. So I know there's a lot going on that I am not tuned into. But one thing that I can try to control in my universe is whether or not I think somebody is being truthful with me. So I have encountered some people who claim to be psychics that have not tapped into one thing about me, and I'm not a cynic where I'm shutting down all my chakras. I'm there open, waiting to be read, and they're not hitting anything with me. So what I've found is that sometimes the ego gets in front of the gift, right? And when people are so anxious to prove that they are real or give information so that you're impressed or whatever that might be, or make it about them rather than about the work and the gift and the energy that's coming through them, then that's when things get botched up. You know, Michael Bodine, I mentioned the Bodines. Michael Bodine told a hilarious story about how he lost his gift. He was this incredible psychic, and all of his information was accurate. You know, he just thought he could do no wrong, right? It was like he was in his 30s. He was just feeling like larger than life. He was doing a radio interview in Minneapolis, where he's from, and he was giving the radio host a reading. And he's thinking, oh, I can do this in my sleep. Here we go. And everything that his inner voice, his still small voice, was telling him about this radio host was wrong. Everything. I mean, not just wrong, really wrong. And it's the same voice that had been giving him all the right information all those years. He was like, what is going on? His gift was taken away from him. It was like, no, sorry, you're not worthy of having this gift. See you later. Have fun with that. You know, he went and got a job at Best Buy selling appliances because he could no longer be a psychic medium. It just wasn't working anymore. Couldn't tune in. Nothing was coming through. So he said, you know, once the gift came back suddenly, he was literally selling an appliance to somebody, and all this information starts flooding in. And he's hearing the voice again, and it's all accurate. And he thought, oh my gosh, it's back. Okay, don't be a jerk. Forget about your ego. This isn't about you. You're in service. You're in service to spirit. Don't lose it again. Because even, you know, as big as he thought he was getting, he totally forgot that this isn't him. It's really coming through him.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Do you test any of these theories that people have out on yourself to see if they actually work? Are you that aligned right now that you could do that? Or do you still rely on other people for the information that comes across?
Well, I know I don't have the gift of hearing dead people talk. Like, I really don't think I do. But I do get a feeling sometimes where I'm thinking about a dead person that has passed that I love very, very much, and then I'll hear their favorite song on the radio. So I think those two are you know, in concert, if you will. A lot of the mediums would tell me that that's a wink. You're thinking about them because their essence is around you, and they're trying to communicate to you, so then they play their favorite song, and that's how that plays out. But I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I'm not capable of, and I'm not yet capable of hearing spirit come into my ear and say, you know, your keys are hiding in your purse. That's not something I'm doing. I also don't seem to have the ability to tell people about their past lives. I'm always fascinated by that, but I don't have that. I don't do psychic surgeries. There's lots of things I do not do. But I also think that there's a lot of things that I am better at doing, as we talked about in the last hour. You know, when Echo Bodine was told that she was going to become a healer, psychic, and a medium by this local medium, basically called up her mother and said, you know, this is, you have to come down and meet with me. You know, so she went down and met with this woman, and basically the woman said to the mother, 3 of your 4 children will develop their psychic gifts, you know, and they'll be well known for their gifts, and you also will develop your psychic gifts, to the mother. And so to go home and accept it, this is your journey and this is your destiny. And so Echo was 17, and she's like, why me? Oh, but she was told that she would get healing hands, and she was told that she would go home, that her dad would complain of a migraine, and it was her job to put her hands on her dad's head, and then that she would heal his migraine by letting source come through her hands. And she, again, 17 years old with the beehive hairdo, like, what the heck is going on here? So sure enough, she gets home, her dad has a headache. She says, Dad, may I put my hands on your head? And he's like, I don't care what you do. You know, they're in a middle-class family in Minnesota, minding their own business. But her hands healed her dad's headache. And from then on, she was a believer that something bigger was going on for their family. And so they did embrace it. And, you know, Nikki Bodine is the middle sibling, and she didn't embrace her gifts until she was in her 40s. She was at a funeral, and the guy who was in the casket sat next to her at the funeral and said, hey, Nikki, I'm so glad you made it. She was like, So she said, okay, I got it. Something's going on here. I'm embracing it. Here we go. Let's put on our seatbelts. So, I think that some people, but Nikki doesn't have the same gifts that Michael has, the same gifts that Echo has. They are all siblings, but they all have different gifts. So I still definitely rely on practitioners who have things that I don't have to give me certain readings or insights, because I just can't pick it up in myself.
There are a lot of frauds in this industry, and I think that's sad, because there's a lot of people who go to psychic mediums or go to psychic healers or psychic surgery practitioners and are in desperate need of help or desperate need of answers, and there are people out there taking advantage of them. I know some very, very highly intuitive people, but I also have met people whom I just would not trust myself on a reading, let alone sending someone over to them. How do you go about defining someone's ability and whether or not it is faithful to what they are trying to accomplish intuitively?
Well, it's like you say, there are a lot of frauds in this business, but there's a lot of frauds in every business, right? In mechanics, accountants, doctors, I mean, you name it. You name the line of work and you're going to find a fraud. CEOs, I mean, my gosh, so much corruption. And so it's unfortunate, but in every line of work, you're going to find people that are just subpar or not out for the right reasons. And it goes back to what we talked about with the ego. If I sense that someone's ego is bigger than their gift, I run for the door. If they tell me that they want to be a star and want to have a TV show and want to do this and want to do that, then I know it's not about their gift. It's about their getting out there. So that's my first, detector, is if I think they're going to be worth anything, I first have a conversation with them and then discern whether or not they're in this for themselves or they're really in this to help people. And then there's some people that have been so highly recommended to me, Dave, and I just got nothing out of them. And then there are these complete unknowns that just blow your socks off. So I just tell people to do their research, do their homework. Don't take the first recommendation that you get just because so-and-so said they were fabulous. I mean, you might not jive with them. You might. So, and again, to put all of your stock in what a psychic or a medium says or a healer, and to go against, I tell people, you have to just follow your own intuition on who's going to help you and who's going to guide you to the person that will help you next. When my dad had brain cancer, we did part Western medicine and part woo-woo medicine, and all of it was a necessary combo platter, I think. But at the same token, I'm not telling anyone that they should not do this or do that to try to save themselves from illness. You have to trust your own inner GPS and follow that and go accordingly. So, it's really the same thing for finding the frauds. You have to trust your inner GPS and not get taken for a ride. And by doing that, you do your research and also listen to your body and your mind and your heart when you're going into these encounters.
I have to tell you this little story here because Angie Dixon, a psychic out of New York, I had her on as a guest, and she actually just appeared in my chat room as we were speaking about this, so I thought that was kind of ironic. But I had her on the air around August 15th, August 20th of what year did I move into my house? 2015. And I'm brand new into my house, but literally been in my house 2 weeks, and the Perseid meteor shower is going on outside. So during one of the breaks, I run outside to see if I could see any meteors. Well, lo and behold, I see a ghost standing 20 feet away from me, and I watch it disappear. I could see him to a T. So I tell Angie about this. The next thing I know, on this show, she's having a conversation with Richard, who goes by Rick, who's the ghost in my yard, me here, and she's in New York. And we're all having this conversation that I wasn't supposed to see him. And she says, is there an addition added to the back of your house? And I'm like, yeah. and she's never seen my house before. I didn't even give her the Google look at it, nothing. And she goes, well, he keeps staring at the back of that house, wondering where his tool shed is. And I have no idea if that was there. I bought the house with the extension, My house is 42 years old. It was built in 74 or 75. So it was kind of cool to have this psychic like Angie come absolutely untapped, not knowing the situation, and it automatically gives her credibility when something like that happens. It was really kind of cool.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like I've been to events before. I've done events with different mediums, and they accuse me of feeding the medium information ahead of time and then telling the mediums where people are sitting in certain seats. And it's like, can you get over yourself? I'm sorry. I don't have time for that. I'm not Googling people. I'm not Facebooking people. I'm not checking to see what the name of your dog was. These things come through as evidential mediumship, and, there's no way somebody can Google some of the stuff that comes up again and again and again. For a medium to point in an open seating gallery to the third row to the second woman and say, your daughter, Jeannie is here, the one who just died in October. It's like, okay, you have my attention now. So something is definitely going on here. And I have honestly received emails from people saying, trying to argue with me that it's still a joke and it's still a fraud and that person must have been a plant. No matter how many hundreds and hundreds of readings like that I have witnessed, people still don't want to embrace it. And, Carolyn Mace, author of Anatomy of the Spirit and Sacred Contracts, I asked her about this. I said, why is it that people can believe in the miracle of, the resurrection of Jesus, but they cannot believe that some medium is talking to their dead relative? And she said, actually, she sees this happen in her healing workshops all the time. People come in for a healing, literally, with rheumatoid arthritis. They're hunched over, and then they leave walking with no pain. They go back to their lives, and the people in their lives that have lower vibrations, skeptical, cynical vibrations, that cannot possibly understand how their wife could go to a healing workshop and come back healed. So they eventually go back, and they are sick again because the vibration of doubt and fear is the more familiar vibration. To be enlightened and healed takes work. You're elevated. And the grooves of our car go easier on the highway with what it's familiar with, which is the groove of fear and doubt. And so even if somebody has an aha, they might go back down to fear and doubt just because it's the familiar path, not because it's the right path. And so we have to continually try to push people back up, Dave, to that enlightened path. It's work, but I think it's worthy of the work.
Do you mind if I get to a couple of audience questions for you?
Oh, please.
Awesome. This one comes from Dennis in Edmonton, Alberta, and I know he'll be tuning into the hockey game tomorrow night, Game 7, between our Oilers and the Anaheim Ducks. Your Chicago Blackhawks didn't do too well this year in the playoffs.
I know. Let's not talk about it. Thank you.
Yes. In one of those weird lineage things, your captain, Jonathan Taves, is actually the husband of my mother's cousin's daughter.
Oh my gosh, they're like 4 degrees separated.
4 degrees separated, and I didn't know that until after I got out of sports radio, which would have been a good in with him. Oh. But nonetheless, he's doing all right. Anyways, Dennis is asking, as he wears his Oilers jersey right now, are you able to tell by auras as to whom is psychic and who is not?
Well, if I could see auras, you betcha. But I think those who do aura readings, and my son sees colors. He sees auras and colors around people. He's drawn to those who have a brighter, yellow light or a lavender light, sometimes a light green or blue. He's actually run to me when he was 3 or 4 because somebody had a brown light all around them, a gray light. It was really dark and ominous. But I think those with that gift absolutely can. And when you get those aura pictures done, I mean, you can see everybody's is different. All the colors are different. No 2 aura pictures are the same. It's like a snowflake. So I think it's a fascinating tool. If you know somebody with one of those cameras, you could play with that for hours.
It is kind of cool. I got my aura photo taken at a paranormal conference in 2015, and I was all purple and pink in hue. It was kind of cool.
Neat. Wow.
Yes.
Cool. That's good news.
I forget what that means, but all I know is I got the photo around here somewhere. It's hanging out.
There you go.
Exactly. Let's get to a question from Joe down in California. Joe has really nice hair, and we compliment him on the air about it all the time. And he is saying, if you need a psychic, do you really have the time or ability to find out one that's not a phony?
If you need a psychic or if you meet a psychic?
Need.
Oh, if you need a psychic, do you really have time to find one who's not phony? Well, if you need a psychic, first of all, you have to ask yourself, why do you need a psychic? What is it that you don't know, that you can't see within yourself, that you need guidance on? And then from there, if you're just on every 1-800 number, or like there's these psychic apps, or you're just taking anything that you can, I say you know yourself better than those people do. So start first with yourself. And then if you're not getting any clarity and you're not hearing anything, then go by recommendations from people you really respect, or walk through a bookstore that has a bunch of different books by different psychics and see which one calls out to you. Literally walk by and be like, that one, and grab it, see what that psychic is, go on their website and see if they're available for a reading. That to me is, you have to pick for yourself. And if you're just ready to grab any psychic with a pulse, then you're probably going to be disappointed in the results. Who knows? You might find the best one ever. But I find when you're treating it like a fire sale, the results will be similar.
I'm getting in trouble from Joe. He says great hair. Great hair, that he has great hair.
Great hair.
Yeah, so
Got
I just had to clarify with that. He takes his hair seriously. Deb on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio is asking, people who speak over you is a very powerful statement. Do you believe that as well?
People who speak over you.
Yes.
Is a very... Well, I don't know that I understand the question.
Well, I think it has to do with, a lot of psychic people will literally, and I'm paraphrasing here, Deb, I apologize, but I know you can only fit so much in 140 characters. I think, considering we're talking on the psychic side, there's a lot of psychics out there who will speak over top of their client or over top of other people almost to try and grab that attention, right?
Over top, and I still don't understand the question. I'm sorry, I'm struggling here. But speaking over somebody?
Yeah, probably to get their message out there, like, I'm the one with the energy, or I'm the one who sees all, you should come to me, I guess an overbearing attitude.
Like bragging about their, bragging about their gift, you mean? Well, anytime I hear a psychic bad-mouthing another psychic, I question that psychic. I mean, I think that, honestly, and it's unfortunate, but it's very competitive, and there's a lot of backstabbing and a lot of people saying, well, oh gosh, don't trust that one. I mean, there was an incredible story about this one psychic who sent an email to another psychic, and then that psychic shared the email that this one was trashing, and it just turned into this terrible high school game of telephone. It was awful. If you are trying to heal and using Source to do so, you are above all of that. And that is the person I want to work with. That's the person I want to go see. Not somebody that's standing there going, oh, that person's a fraud. That person's a fake. That person does this. That you don't want to trust that person. You know what you say to them? You say, you know what? Let me know how your experience is. And if you still want to talk to somebody, I'll be here. That's what you say. If you're really an enlightened healer, psychic, or medium, you let people go on their journey. You don't trash the others, because if you do, you're going down to that lower vibration, and that means you're not bringing in the source for the healing anyway, and you probably won't be able to tap into me. That is what anybody that trashes anybody else, I would not give the time of day to. I just wouldn't.
Alan at #SpacedOutRadio. He's a brand new listener. Alan, thank you so much for joining us at #SpacedOutRadio. Really appreciate that. Alan is asking, have you ever, or do you know psychics who have worked for police, and what do you think about that type of investigation on, say, a crime?
I do know some who have, and I know a couple that have actually been very helpful with the police, but also it can be tricky business, right? Because usually a police officer won't go to a psychic for helping with a case unless they're at their wit's end and they have no other leads to follow, and anything is better than nothing. And so that being the case, if they go to a psychic and the psychic says, I see a body, it's in a field, that's not really going to help you much. But if you know where that field is, of course, then you can get somewhere. So I think it's helpful if it helps bring some closure. But, Sylvia Brown was on the TV, at the end of her career, which I truly believe she lost her gift at the end. I think she was very talented in the beginning, and at the end it was just mush, because she was saying that Elizabeth Smart was dead, and of course we know that kidnapping case, she was very much alive. She also told Olivia Newton-John that her husband was dead, and he was very much alive and was just hiding from the law. So, we can't always believe what a psychic's information is. So I would say that if somebody goes to one or two psychics to try to help solve a case, again, take it all with a grain of salt, but if it helps get you somewhere, then that's great. I would never say don't do it, because if you help solve a crime with it, then fabulous. But if you put all of your eggs in that basket, you might be left disappointed.
Let's get to a question from Ron in the SOR Space Travelers Club. You mentioned earlier about your son seeing a dark spirit. So the question for Ron kind of leads not towards your son, but just in general. Have you ever chatted with people who have had attachments from negative spirit, and what did you get out of that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that a lot of our addictions that we have in this world are from attachments. I think it's a spirit that wants to feel what it's like to get high, or feel what it's like to drink or eat chocolate, or all of these things. If you're addicted to food, if you're addicted to shopping, this could be an attachment. I've actually spoken to many medium psychics and healers that have helped people cope through their addictions by getting a clearing and by getting those attachments removed, by going for a Reiki session. I mean, it's that simple. It's unbelievable. So if you're out there, you're listening, and you're struggling with some sort of addiction, get some help energetically. Don't just go for the pill bottle. Go for another modality, because there might be a layer here that you can't even begin to tap into that can clear your space. But start by taking control. Again, I go back to Echo Bodine. They are both AA. They went through addiction. A lot of people that I've interviewed who have these gifts went through addictions and then came back and are now sober because they had trouble dealing with their gifts. But what Echo would say when she would look in the mirror after drinking the night before, she would look in the mirror and not see herself. She would see another face. And it was so damn scary that it was like, out. You must leave my body now. If you go out and you have a bunch of drinks, you need to, in the morning, take your body back. And we all can take note on this one. I mean, it sounds silly, but it's just that simple. Take your physical body back. All spirits must leave in the name of God now. You're not here for my highest good. You must go back to the light for healing. Out now. And then you can stand there and get your power back. So I have seen some people that are so taken over by darkness that I just feel like it's like they're being rented. Their body is being rented. And you can't really talk to somebody like that and talk sense into somebody like that. So you just have to put boundaries up when you're around those people. And I wish it were easier, because some of those people are in my family. But we all have people in our family that have some, layers of darkness here and there. And we have them in our life and at work and all over the place, right? But we can still put up boundaries. So I would say always protect yourself with light. Always call in a higher power to protect yourself. Get your body back if you had too many drinks the night before. And understand that by doing that, by taking your body down to a lower vibration, you're making yourself susceptible to being taken over by another energy. And that just makes yourself vulnerable. So don't do it. If you can, avoid it. If you do it, take your body back the next day. It's such a weird thing to say, but I've seen too many instances where people have been rented and then they lose themselves. They're like not themselves for a couple of months. And then they come back and you're like, oh, hey, Joan, it's nice to see you again. I'm so glad you're back.
Do you believe, then, that there is a place for spirituality when it comes to paranormal investigation? Have you ever investigated that?
Investigated the place in the media for this?
No, the spirituality. There's a lot of conflict between paranormal teams of whether or not that there should be a psychic medium on a team or that they're doing science. So we can't have a medium in there screwing up everything. What is your thoughts on that?
I think they should be working in concert. I think that it's absolutely the case. Paranormal team, a psychic and a medium is paranormal. I'm sorry. It should all be working together. And for the paranormal people that don't want the psychics and the mediums, then you're not being, then you're not going to dig in and get all the research. You have to bring in all the layers. But again, if egos are battling, then that's a different story. I agree that you have to bring in all the facts and the science. But you know what? Some people would argue that the the sensors are going off, and that's not scientific. That could be so many things, so many factors. I mean, we all know a radio wave can affect a lot of different things, right? You and I are talking through a signal that is going all the way from you to me into this cell phone, and that is amazing. So messages can be transferred in very, very different ways. And so I say the more people you bring into a ghost bus, the paranormal, the medium, the psychic, by all means, get all the tools in there. Why would you turn down an Allen wrench? You don't know. You might need it for that table. Bring them all into the toolbox and then see what comes of it. Work together.
Do you like all the paranormal dramas out there? Do you even have time for it? Have you investigated it? And do you believe then that because of the way people are in that field, that's the reason why the mainstream may not actually take it very seriously?
I think that's exactly it right there. The dramas in anything is not going to make people believe or embrace it, okay? So whether it's in the paranormal or the psychic or the medium or the healer, if you start getting holier than thou in any of those modalities, you will lose your audience. You will lose them. And that is the problem. We have to work together because they are all under the same umbrella. It's different from, say, the Bible. It's different from, say, medical science. It's different from Western medicine. It's different from, Presbyterians. You have to just stop it. I didn't even know there was a lot of drama going on, Dave, but if you tell me that there is, I believe it, and that's the silliest thing I have ever heard. Because, again, it's like all of this arguing is going to get you nowhere. It's like the government in the United States right now. There's so much arguing, nobody's making progress, and it's terrifying. So I say stop with the arguing and with the egos, because ego, that acronym, edging God out, you get nowhere, and it's enough. I'm sorry. Show me the evidence, then I will listen. Come forward with your evidence. Don't insult people. Don't tell people that you're so amazing, because why? Show me the evidence.
Do you follow the paranormal at all? Because it is tied very closely to the spiritual and psychic realm.
Right, I do. I mean, I follow things here, but I don't follow wars or fights. I'm not privy to what's happening when you talk about the drama that's going on. If there's a specific drama right now or a debate, I'm not tapped into that. No.
So have you been on any paranormal investigations?
I've been on several ghost busts. Yes, I have.
Well, you have to tell us a weird story that maybe you experienced, because that's kind of, interesting.
Absolutely. So I was in Minnesota with the Bodine family, actually, at a haunted place called Cuzzies, which they knew to be a brothel, and apparently some of the women were murdered by police officers. So there's so much activity in this place. It's just nutty. So I'm down there. We've got a film crew. We're filming this. We've got the night vision cameras going on. We're doing the whole thing. And Michael and Echo and Nikki Bodine, all the sibling Bodines are walking around. And then Blake Bodine, which is Michael's son, he's in his 20s. He's kind of like walking around, and he's got, a sensor going. It was just a lot of sensing what's happening in the basement and which areas where the most activity was happening and the places where the staff is afraid to go. So the staff is afraid to go into one of these coolers. And so we're all kind of standing around the cooler, and you just immediately felt like this cold rush of air. And I got pricklies on the back of my neck. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. So I'm saying my protection prayers, and I'm trying to protect myself and, not go there with the fear factor. And all of a sudden, somebody made a joke about how, well, they say when they're down here that the spirit likes to goose people in the butt. And just right then, I swear to you, Dave, I got goosed. So it was like, boom. I was like, ah! And I just screamed. Like, oh, my God, I was goosed so bad. So the goose, the ghost goosed me. It's hard to say that fast. But, yes, I got goosed. Another time I was in Chicago, there's a haunted place called the Red Lion Pub, which is along this stretch of very historic area in Chicago where John Dillinger and all the gangsters, Al Capone, used to hang out and shoot the bad guys or, shoot their enemies. So this place, the second floor, was known to have a little girl that was seen around, wandering around. Apparently she died of the flu very young, and she's the bar goers will see that they see her in her little nightgown walking around. So we're there with the film crew. This is back when I worked in television, doing a Halloween story. Go find a ghost bust. Okay, great. So I bring a psychic over to try to find the little girl, and we're walking around, and she stops. And as soon as she stops, she says, the girl's right here. And she put her hand out, and I put my hand where she put her hand. And I'm telling you, it was as if I put my hand in a bucket of ice water. It was that cold. It was like, whoa. And then she started talking to the little girl and found out this, that, the other. And, of course, she didn't know any of the history behind it when we brought her in there blind. And she went ahead and gave us all that evidence, which was wonderful. And that was from a psychic, right? So that was from, and me, a reporter, feeling a cold hand. So, I mean, I guess I don't really understand what the harm would be in bringing somebody who sees or hears the other side when you're trying to prove the other side exists. That, to me, is the craziest thing I've ever heard.
We only have about 90 seconds left with you. I would love it if you told I know. Next time we have to have you on for the full show. Maybe on a Friday night or something. But I would love it if you told our guests where they could find your books.
Yes, come to my website, JennWeigel.com. I also have several audiobooks on there with different interviews with psychics, mediums, healers, near-death experience survivors, you name it. We've got it all there. So just head to the website, and, of course, Amazon, too. All the books are listed there. So you have plenty of options. I hope that the listeners will reach out to me with their experiences, because that's how I get my content for the new book.
And you know what? Our listeners often will ask about where they can get an autograph book. If they get one from your website, can they get one there?
Yes, if they email me from the website, I will make sure I get it out to them and send it out to them directly.
That is awesome. Jen Weigel, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. What a pleasure it was to absolutely chat with you about what we talked about, from the media all the way to spirituality, getting down to the paranormal at the end. It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
It was. Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful. Keep doing what you're doing. It's very important, as you know.
Well, we're going to keep trying. We are efforting to get a little bit bigger and better as we continue on. Jen, you hold on for 1 second. I'm going to send this off to commercial here. Jen Weigel, our guest in hours 1 and 2, her website, JennWeigel.com. Weigel spelled W-E-I-G-E-L. JennWeigel.com. Make sure you hit her up for an autograph book. I highly suggest you do. Coming up in hour number 3, we are going to be joined from PurplePlates.com, Corrine DeWinter. We're going to continue on. Corrine may have a couple of surprises for all of you out there listening as well. So make sure you stay tuned. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We're going to be back on the other side with hour number 3 right here on the mighty SOR. Check out our website as well. We'll be right back. Looking for a great weekend getaway this fall? Hi there, this is Dave Scott. Come on up to the heart of British Columbia for the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon, being held at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Speakers from all over North America are coming to discuss Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, and intuitiveness for the 3-day event, September 29th to October 1st. For more information, go to spacedoutradio.com and click on the Caribou Paracon banner and book your tickets today. Come to BC, where the paranormal is waiting for you.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4 Cop, on the final Monday of every month.
you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio Live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
A child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now he don't
Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you along for the ride tonight. Tomorrow night on the program, Uncle Jimbo James Tyson takes over the cabin while I am on my way. I'm heading east, going to Boston. I don't know if a Yankee fan can survive there, but that's where I'm going. I will be speaking this weekend at the Provincetown Paracon in Provincetown, Massachusetts. I'll be speaking about paranormal media. Noon on Saturday, if you can make it. That's noon Eastern. It's going to be a lot of fun. But nonetheless, Uncle Jimbo will be in for the next 6 nights. Tomorrow night on the program, Elizabeth April will be back. We'll be talking about spiritual contact and everything that goes along with your intuitive side. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know you loved Elizabeth when she was on last month for the first time. She is a new monthly contributor on this show. If you want to follow us on social media, you could do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. If you want to connect with me live during the show, would appreciate that. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Read up on the Encounter online, our brand new news section that has some really cool paranormal and news stories on it. We also are on Patreon, patreon.com. For as low as $1 a month, you can become a patron of Spaced Out Radios as well. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia. We're also live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world on the United Public Radio Network. We're live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio, KTLK, The Fringe FM. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell is on the injured reserve when it comes to the password for tonight, so Michael McNeil stepped up in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ultra Paradoxal is your password for tonight. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as each and every night we got a password going right here on the mighty SOR. Coming in from purpleplates.com, you probably heard the advertisement on this show during the breaks, is Corrine DeWinter. Corrine, lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It's been a while since you were on. A while.
I know.
What have you been doing?
I don't know, man.
Where you been hiding?
I've been hiding in a dark cave. But so I was, this woman, Jenniffer, she was excellent. I loved everything she said. I thought she was like right on. When she was talking about the ego getting in the way of psychics and mediums, that's very true. What she was referring to Sylvia Brown losing her talent toward the end of her life. And so I just thought she was a great guest. So it was really nice to hear her.
And you know what? The one thing I loved about Jen on the show is here's an Emmy Award-winning journalist and someone who had grown up around journalism with her father being very well known in the Chicago area for reporting. You know, she followed along the lineage of getting behind the microphone as well and getting out and getting dirty with stories as well. And when you have journalists, true journalists, experienced, credible journalists who are taking these subjects seriously, I think that can only help this field grow, because the more mainstream media, because every time we always hear about how the mainstream media won't take us seriously. Well, here is someone in the mainstream media taking these topics seriously. And, I think it's a good gateway to have someone like her opening up that door saying, this stuff is real. We need to look into it more. There's something here. Right.
You're right. It is very important that, our field is taken seriously when most times we're laughed out of places, and so that is very important.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. We are going to be booking her again in a few months' time. We're going to book her on a Friday night so that way she can come on for the entire show, because she wants to do the entire show next time, and I think that's going to be absolutely fantastic to get her back on the air again. So it was a lot of fun having Jen Weigel on the show to break down the spirituality, especially from a journalistic perspective. That was great. Now, I'm excited, and I'll tell you why I'm excited. Because you have been following this show for the better part of 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I'm coming to your neck of the woods this weekend. For the Provincetown Paracon. And I'm excited that you're actually going to make the trek to Provincetown. I'm putting you on the spot here. I hope you don't mind. and you're going to come hang out with the Spaced Out Radio crowd that'll be there.
Right. And so it's going to be you and Eric and who else?
Everett Thiemer is going to join us, and there is a lady coming from British Columbia here who's been helping us behind the scenes. Her name is Lana, and she is going to be coming with me, traveling east, so that way, she wanted to help out. And she's been helping us behind the scenes for a number of months now in helping do a lot of the Facebook advertisements that we do. And as she gets more engulfed with everything, she's never been to the East Coast, so she's like, I hope you don't mind. I'm coming for this Paracon. And I'm like, just hop on the plane and come on. So there's going to be 4 of us down there from the team, which is very exciting.
It is, definitely.
Absolutely.
You guys will love it. You guys will love it there, too. It's beautiful. Provincetown, well, the whole vineyard, Martha's Vineyard, of course, is out in the ocean, like 45-minute boat ride. But on Cape Cod, where you're going to be, the whole Cape is beautiful. You'll love it.
I'm looking forward to it. I've never seen the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
I know. Seen the Pacific, never the Atlantic. So I'm looking forward to that. Now I can say I've seen both oceans. Now I just got to get way up north so I can see the Arctic, and then I've got the trifecta around North America. That would be fun. That'd be very fun.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking forward to it because I haven't had a holiday in a long time, and I'm looking forward to actually meeting some people. So if people are coming, I do have to say this. We will have Spaced Out Radio t-shirts there. We will have some really cool posters there. We got some stickers made up. We've got some brochures on the show made up. We're going to do up a little bit of a booth there so that way we can advertise, and hopefully they have internet at the hotel that we're staying at that we can connect to, so that way we can bring up the website and bring up the show on everything that we do. We'll have headphones there for people to listen on in. So it's going to be as interactive as we can possibly make it. And I got to admit, I'm a little geeked up for this. Very geeked up to finally get on out there and meet some people in the paranormal field, because as we grow Spaced Out Radio, everybody here who's listening in the chat rooms and listening away from the chat rooms and tuning on in from other countries, we're budding, we're growing. We're still that little bud on the end of a tree that's waiting to sprout and to bloom. And to be able to get to meet people and introduce them to the show, especially with there being so many orphan listeners out there who were so used to listening to another show at night with a different host, and they miss that and they don't know where to turn. We're hoping that maybe we can meet some of them and turn them on to what we do here, because I think we're building a really cool following here. And that is the goal. That is what we are trying to accomplish. So that's what excites me, is to be able to talk to these people and explain to them that, hey, We may be the new kid on the block, but we're here for you, man. We're here to show you that this type of entertainment can be back in your ears once again.
Right. And just as quality as the top show that's out there now.
Yes, but we have a Canadian accent that we have to try and get around.
Yeah, no big deal.
All right. I'll take your word for that. We've been talking a lot about spirituality tonight, and you're someone, and I've never really asked you this on the air, so I'm gonna put you on the spot here, okay? Because you're someone over the last year and a half who has really jumped into the field to learn your own spirituality, much like what Jenniffer was speaking in the first 2 hours. You've always kind of delved around it, but what made you decide that you wanted to learn about reconnecting with your own spiritual ability?
Well, I've always been into this type of stuff since I was a little girl, like witchcraft and paranormal, supernatural things. But really the spirituality in terms of why things happen to us in our lives, the labyrinth of life and, this type of thing, soul stuff, really kicked in, I guess, when I lost my mother. And then, of course, I lost my father. So this life after death thing really, it just, I love it. And I never get tired of learning new things about it and interviewing people about it and just asking people. And like Jenniffer was saying, it amazes her and it amazes me also that people that believe in Jesus don't believe that people could talk to the dead. And it's like they're afraid of that. They don't want to admit that could be possible, because then they'd have to break down their foundation and start all over again, and they don't want to do that. But indeed, people pray to Jesus. That's talking to the dead, so to speak. I just don't and this is a thing for me to get over myself, is that I get irritated when people don't believe in life after death. And I don't get into fights with people about it, but I'm like, what? Like, how can you not believe that your life goes on, Anyways. So, yeah, that's basically how I got started, really, on the whole aspect of my own personal spirituality.
I understand that, but in the last year and a half, I've watched you all of a sudden delve into your own intuitiveness, trying to tap into your own psychic ability. It's almost like going to school because you hang out, you have a show on Blog Talk Radio called Supernatural Radio, and which is very good. Any of our audience should actually check you out. You can find her on Facebook, Corinne de Winter, and find out when she's having one of her Supernatural Radio shows. And it's a great show. And you deal with a lot of spiritual people. What made you decide that it was time at this point of your life to tap in to learn about your own psychic or intuitive abilities?
Well, I'll tell you, my main go-to medium, of course, as you know, is Renee Richards, because she's astounding. And she told me, Corinne, you can do this. Like, you shouldn't rely on me to get messages from your mother and father. You can do this yourself. And of course, I'm like, no, I can't. And so I decided, let me give it a shot. Let me practice on people. Let me, try to tune in, meditate, get the whole Christ consciousness thing going. And I'd love to be able to be like Renee, but it comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of hard work. I think she probably spends hours every day meditating or, this type of thing where she's totally clear. Now, look at me. I drink, I smoke. I'm not totally clear, I don't think I'm ever going to be. But I think that you kind of got to keep yourself unaffected by things like, drinking and even cigarettes or whatever, to be that totally clear channel and be someone like Renee. But that's why I don't think I'll ever get to that level of being a, awesome medium. But I mean, I think I do okay now, but I'm actually taking classes starting in a week, mediumship classes. So we'll see what happens after that too,
What have you learned about yourself as you've driven down this road of spirituality?
I've learned that I am an amazing, powerful being, and that I shouldn't be afraid to admit that. I know it's like just me saying that is like, ugh, did I just say that? But it's like, we don't want to own our own power. We're afraid of it. And we give our power to other beings, other people even. But, owning your own power and admitting to it and just really coming to terms with the reality of who you are as a soul on earth here is very important for all of us. And I hope I don't sound cocky when I just said that. But I mean, I feel like I have learned that, yes, I am capable of amazing things. We all are. We just have to get rid of the fear and the doubt. And we can do anything. We just got to get rid of that, that stuff.
I know when I decided to take this journey down to try and enlighten myself through what was going on with my own experiences way before I started this show, I found that a lot of anger came out of me. A lot of tears, a lot of emotions came out of me. And the one thing I learned from the gentleman who trained me, his name is Pascal, he said that is part of the healing, because before you can get in touch with yourself spiritually, you have to be able to heal yourself and forgive yourself. Did you go through that point as well when you were learning about your spirituality?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I will say that, depending on how you look at things that happen in your life, I will say that I was dealt a few heavy blows. And it's almost like that expression, you have to die to yourself to be enlightened, so to speak. Like, okay, the light comes in through the cracks in a person. The damage is not, you're not damaged. The light comes through the wound. And so I think that I've learned so much through the trials that have, come up in the past few years in my life. It's not easy, and living is not easy for anybody. Everyone's got their own hell, I believe. And, excuse me. So I'm still learning. I'm always going to be learning. I'm never going to say I'm an expert at this or an expert at that, or, all of us are constantly learning, and there's so much more to learn. How do you feel did you feel like you went through that?
I went through a battery of emotions. I remember Pascal taking me on drives in the middle of the night. We'd leave at about 11 o'clock at night. We'd get back at like 3 in the morning. And literally, if you saw Pascal, he is literally this 6'2", 320-pound guy, massive individual with, when he shakes your hands are like a vice grip, or his hands are like a vice grip. And, he made me, feel so meek, and I don't know how many times I told him I couldn't do this and I didn't want to do this, and he kept pressing me, and I would get mad, and I would, tell him to F off, and I would tell him this isn't working, that nothing seems to be going, I'm not feeling anything, and I would go through all this, and then all of a sudden, as we're driving, he'd be like, look ahead, tell me what you see. And in his headlights down down the road. Maybe it was pareidolia, maybe it was not, but all of a sudden I would see figures on the side of the road, whether it's animals or people. And it was just amazing how once I was able to flush all that emotion and that hatred I had for myself and my situation and everything that kind of went along with the anxiety and depression, once I was able to push that to the side and just kind of open up and relax, it's amazing what you can see and hear.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I mean, you know, people that say, of course, I don't like when people say, you know, I am vibrating at a higher vibration than you are. I think that's really like wrong to say. It's a different vibration. It's not a higher or lower one. And, but at the same time, like Jenniffer was saying, trusting yourself, trusting what you're getting and what's coming into your mind and, you know, just trusting all your intuition is not an easy thing to do. So, you know, I mean, I'm trying to get more tuned into my intuition and other messages that probably are coming through that I'm not quite grasping. But, you know, I don't know. I do believe that we're in a shift here. I really, truly believe that there is indeed a shift going on Earth, as is in evidence with the Schumann resonance, Dave, which you probably know about. The Schumann resonance was at 7.5, about 7.5 hertz for hundreds of years. Only recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, has it tripled. In fact, this past Easter, the hertz was 90 hertz from, you know, up from 7.5 hertz. It's such an interesting phenomenon that has happened. Now, why all of a sudden would the Schumann resonance, which is the, you know, resonance of the Earth itself, why all of a sudden would it shoot up to 90 when it stayed the same for eons? You know, so I mean, I think there's real proof going on here that we are shifting, the veils are thinning, and we're all becoming more aware. Whether we want to be more aware or not, we are.
Do you think that entire shift, because I got to be honest with you, this whole veil talk, I'm just not fully convinced about it. And here's my theory why, and it's my opinion only, you know, and I could be totally wrong. But I'm going to throw it out there. I don't really believe in this whole veil thing. I don't know, maybe just to me it sounds a little corny. I could be, like I said, I could be wrong. But what I do believe is this. The more we have people leaving organized religion, and I'm not professing that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the more that we have people who still have a core value and a core belief of something spiritual, godlike, whatever you want to call it, inside of themselves, but they've had enough of organized religion and the pressures and the hypocrisy that many religions come across with. I think that's why people are starting to see more, because as they pull away from what they have been taught and indoctrinated inside of themselves and start to expand their horizons, I think that is doing more to wake people up than some veil thinning that is causing more people to see.
Well, you just proved my point with what you just said. So you're naming a actual material thing that is waking people up. Like people are sick of it. They're sick of their religion. They're sick of their churches and whatever they do. But why? Why are people waking up? And when I say the veil is thinning, and it does sound corny, believe me, you got no argument from me there. When I say that, it's more like people are really, you know, oh my God, they're tuning in easier to the truth. Now, we haven't quite, I don't think I'm going to see it in my lifetime where we're actually, you know, in a place of peace on earth. But I think we are really gearing up for that. Well, of course, the age of Aquarius is coming. And, you know, they've been singing about that for since Woodstock. So I think that is something that's going to happen eventually.
Well, I think we'll agree to disagree on that one. Eventually it'll happen. Eventually it will. But I think that's why so many more people are having experiences. So many more people are seeing things that they've never seen in their life. And not just seeing it, Corrine, they're now having the strength to admit, I have had a sighting with a ghost. I have seen a UFO. I have had an experience that I can't explain. You go back 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago, people were afraid to do that, more so in recent culture, but people were afraid to admit what they were seeing because there was so much stigma and the church had so much power on people that to see something that was supernatural or paranormal was taboo. And there's still a lot of people alive who would believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So
but go ahead.
No, please.
But so what you're saying is you're saying exactly everything that goes with the veil is thinning, meaning that we're being more spiritual as a whole than we were before. That's what the veil thinning means to me, anyway.
Well, you'll have to sit down with me this weekend and explain this whole veil thing, because when I think of a veil, I think of something that is covering someone's face on a wedding day.
That's going to be me when you see me.
Oh my goodness. I'm not marrying. I am not getting married. It's not Vegas. It's not Vegas.
No, I'll just have one of those shrouds on, you know, like
Exactly.
like those statues in the graveyard.
Exactly. Just put a shroud on. That's right. That's right. That's what it's all about right there. So,
hey, are you going to have a drink? Are you going to have a drink with me?
Of course. Of course.
Okay. Yeah, I want to see what you're like when you get drunk, Dave. I know you hardly ever do.
You know what? I'll tell you this. You will laugh, and I'll tell you why. My entire family on my dad's side has allergic reaction to alcohol. So the minute I have a drink, my face, like literally, I could walk in the middle of a road and cars will stop because my face turns so red. Okay? They'll be like, I didn't know there was a street light here. Well, it's just Dave. It's okay. You still got the right of way. Let's go. Seriously. That's what happens. But you'll get to experience the full Dave effect this weekend. That's for sure. That's for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so as we continue on, now I heard a rumor from you last night that you have some purple plates.
Yes, we have a new size, which is wallet size. And I have a number of them that are, well, I'm going to give away 6 tonight. So I'm trying to think of a good, how can we choose the winners, Dave?
Geez, that's a good question. That's a good question. Let's, oh, you put me on the spot now. I was putting you on the spot there, and now I thought you would have had all this planned, but I love giving stuff away. I love it when you come on here, because you're always giving something away.
Okay, so you guys, no Googling. I'm going to ask the question, no Googling, because you got, I can only see one chat room here. I think you can see all of them, Dave.
I've got okay. Let's narrow it down so that way I'm not challenging. We got Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. We'll go with the Spreaker chat room. We'll go with the Spaced Out Radio chat room on our website, and we will go with the SOR Space Travelers Club. Those are the ones I'm calling.
Okay. Okay, so whoever answers like 5 seconds after I ask this question wins the first one.
Mm-hmm. Hold on, I got to get my pen. I got to get my pen ready. Now, be damned if I can find my pen. Seriously. Oh, there it is. Fell on the floor. Hold on. Okay. All right. There we go.
Okay, first question.
Yes.
What were Pancho Villa's last words?
That could be a password for the night. Who the hell is Pancho Villa? I'm way too Canadian for that. Way too Canadian for that.
Pancho Villa was like, he was like a kind of a war guy that, well, anyways, he's got a history. All right, so nobody is answering me.
Well, if you saw how many what the Fs were coming into the chat rooms right now and on Twitter, nobody knows who the hell Pancho Villa is.
Are you kidding me?
I don't even know how to spell that.
Okay, all right. So here's another question.
Okay, we're scrapping that question. Do not even go with it. Do not even go with it. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can I ask a question? We'll make this simple. Well, not so simple, but we're gonna put it out there because everybody knows I am a big Guns N' Roses fan.
Mm-hmm.
What is my favorite Guns N' Roses song?
Oh.
Yeah. What is my favorite Guns N' Roses song?
Okay, you guys try to answer that one.
It's the greatest song ever. 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 There has never been. It was literally, the minute Axl sung it for the first time, it was mic drop, over. Game over for rock and roll. No, it's not November Rain. No, it's not Barry Manilow. Come on, it's the greatest GNR. Don's got it. Don in the Spreaker chat room has it.
Awesome. And also Trip also got the last words for Pancho Villa.
Ah.
And the last words of Pancho Villa were, "Don't let it end like this. Tell them I said something."
No, it's not Sweet Child O' Mine. I got one. I got one. Come on, we need some more here. Oh, Bill Cardwell, Robert White. They're winners as well.
But we should ask different questions, not the same one.
Okay, so let's give three away for that. Let's give 3 away for that. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So whoever we just named, just go. You guys go to my Facebook page and send me your address, which is Corrine DeWinter on Facebook. Okay, so the next question.
Hold on, we got to give myself Paradise City. Paradise City is the greatest song ever written. Okay, greatest song ever written. We'll go with that.
I thought you said it was the other one.
No, I said no. Paradise City.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd play some, but unfortunately, the whole copyright thing and Bumblefoot leaving GNR, there's a little tension there, and that's just the way it is. All right.
Okay, so here's the question, the next question, you guys. If you are a lepidopterist, what do you do? Lepidopterist.
Do you hate people?
No, I'm just saying things that I know. I just, I don't know what other questions. I mean, that's an easy one, though.
I've never heard of that. That's like a Bill Cardwell password. It's like a Bill Cardwell password.
All right, so I'll give you an easier one.
Hold on, Lepidopterist?
Lepidopterist.
Lepidopterist.
No, not terrorist. Lepidopterist.
Thank God for Google.
Well, forget it now. All All right, on to the next question. you
Hold
guys.
on, I gotta
forget that.
No,
No.
Hold on.
You guys took too long to answer.
Hold on, Lepidopterist.
Yes.
Hold on. I think we actually had one in here on that. Hold on.
Okay, Dennis got it.
Dennis got it? Okay, Dennis Koch got it. There we go.
They study butterflies and moths. Actually, Teresa also, she said moths, which is part of it.
Well.
So Teresa gets one too.
Okay, so we got one more to give away.
Oh, I didn't see it, Joe. Okay. Okay, so here's the last question.
Lepidopterist. Who does that? Who does that to people?
Okay, here's the next one. What is an ornithologist?
Ornithologist.
Yeah.
Throw up. Not really throw up, but throw it up. Ornithologist.
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 Yes.
Ornithologist. Ornithologist. Study butterflies? No, that was the last one, preacher.
Joe got it. Birds.
Birds. Joe and his...
Well, so did Coral. Coral got it, too.
Oh.
Okay, so Coral and Joe.
All right, Coral and Joe. Lisa got one in the SOR Space Travelers same time, too. So you got to come up with another one. All right.
Did I already give... I think I already gave Lisa a free plate, but if I didn't, I'll send one, you know?
Hold on. All the answers, because of the delay that we're on, all the answers are starting to come in huge. Do you have one for John on Twitter? We haven't given away one on Twitter. Do you have one for John on Twitter? I'll give you I'll tell you what. Yeah. I'll give you a free T-shirt, a free Spaced Out Radio T-shirt if you get one. If you get one for John on Twitter.
Okay.
And actually, I'll give you a free autograph poster for Robert as well. And a sticker.
Okay.
Okay. You'll even get to take a selfie with me. Okay.
Okay.
So our winners of the wallet-sized purple plates, I'm going to read down your first names. On Twitter, we got John and Robert. On the chat rooms, we have Lisa, Joe, Dawn, Bill, Robert, Dennis, Teresa, and Coral. What you all need to do is you all need to contact Corrine DeWinter on Facebook. And make sure you send your address, your phone number, your social insurance number, or social security number. You know, everything. A blood sample works as well for DNA testing. And from there, she will send you a purple plate, courtesy of purpleplates.com, where I highly suggest all of you go and shop. That is really nice of you to do that.
Sure. Well, you know, Corey says he thinks his answer didn't count. Okay, Corey, you win. I'll send you one, too.
All right. And I'm getting some not griping, but...
who else?
Hold on. Deb Russo, Matt, at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. All right.
No, Joe. I didn't keep your info. So here's the thing, you guys.
Ouch. Way to insult. You can't insult Joe's hair like that. I didn't keep your info. He's sending me... He's got a Ziploc bag of hair trimmings that he's actually sending me. So because you know, he has nice hair.
Eric, I'll bring you one, Eric.
Yes. Eric needs one. He needs something to cuddle with in Boston. He does. He needs something.
I thought I sent him one. Oh, his disappeared.
You know what? He has a ghost in his house right now that is making a lot of things disappear. As weird as that sounds. He was fidgeting around with his guitar, and he put all of these screws from his guitar as he was cleaning it into a cup. There were 6 screws in there. When he went to put it all back together, there were 5. Still hasn't found that screw. You're screwed, Eric. You're screwed.
Totally.
I hear you. That's all right. Preacher, you're getting one in Provincetown. And, you know, that might even come with a hug from our lovely Coco.
That's going to be extra.
Yeah. You know what's really cool is I got the posters today. I got 60 posters that I am bringing along for the trip. And they turned out so good. I'm so excited about this. I had a good friend of mine here in town, Carrie. She's a graphic designer for the local newspaper. And she's a big paranormal enthusiast, and she's helping me out with the paranormal ghost hunts at the museum around my house. Long story short, she designed these posters that were just phenomenal.
I bet.
Yeah, they are absolutely outstanding, and she's also designed our brochures that we're going to be handing out. So if people want to come by the Paracon, by our booth, they want to learn more, we'll hand them a brochure about the show, and it's going to be absolutely great. And I do have to give mad props to Carrie, if you're listening, because I know you're on Facebook right now, Carrie, but if you're listening, thank you so much. You've gone out of your way to make us look very, very good heading into Provincetown. So I hope you caught that. But if you didn't, well, you'll have to listen to the replay. That's what iTunes is for.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. So I just want to say, those that get the free plates, it would be so nice if you guys actually came and gave me a review of your experiences and all that, because you know, it really matters. So thank you for doing that if and when you get the plate. So
yes, and you can go to purpleplates.com, either head straight to the website or go click on the banner at spacedoutradio.com. Either or works for you, because it's just a little button press. Go through this. You know what? I'm going to be greedy here. Go through the Spaced Out Radio side, click on the Purple Plates banner. We need more clicks. We need more clicks that way. The clicks help us. Believe it or not. The clicks help us. We're all about the clicks around here. We're not clickbait. We're just click hungry. We're hungry for clicks on the Spaced Out Radio side. Man. What else should we talk about? What else is new? You had any cool experiences lately?
Well, you know, I was earlier I was on another show, and I was talking about a dream I had last night of John Lennon. And it was in the 1960s, and this was the first time that while dreaming I could stay in the dream. I knew I was dreaming, but and like, you know, when you know you're dreaming, you like wake up shortly after that, like in the next second or two. I was able to stay in the dream longer. And John Lennon was telling me all of this stuff, and I was trying to write it down on paper in my dream. And in the dream, he was wearing a pinstripe suit, and there was a hole in one of the knees. So somebody, when I was on the show, brought up a picture that they found of John Lennon actually wearing a pinstripe suit in the 60s, like, you know, before the Beatles before they did like Abbey Road, you know, or whatever. But anyway, so that was really interesting. Yes, Angie. You know, I'd love to hear Angie's take on this, but on the dream. But, you know, Dave, imagine how many things we learn in our dreams that we can't take with us.
Oh, I would fully agree. Fully agree with that. I just wish I could remember one of my dreams. You know, honestly, I have no clue what I dream about at night.
Really?
Yeah, no clue. And this is, I don't know if it's just me or, like, I know a lot of people out there can't remember their dreams. They know they're dreaming. But the interesting part about it is it seems like only when I have an extraterrestrial type encounter, because I'm an abductee, I've been taken, those are the only ones I ever remember. I couldn't tell you if I was dreaming about fishing with my dog, or, riding a roller coaster while eating a Snickers bar, or whatever that could be coming up, right? But the last dream I actually remember was being held by a bunch of greys. And it was like a 5-second snippet where all I remember is hearing in my head, he's waking up, get him back, and I punched one. That's all I remember.
Wow.
And that's the last dream I actually remember. And that was months ago. I just don't remember my dreams.
And that's been your whole life like that?
Pretty much my whole adulthood. I mean, as a kid, I used to have a vivid imagination. I think all kids do. But adulthood, yeah, I would say that.
That's too bad. I love my dreams.
I think it was because I got scared. My ex-wife one day woke up all upset with me because apparently I had kissed another woman in her dream.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got the brunt of that. No. That did happen. That honestly did happen. But I'm not saying that's why it was happening, but
So she dreamed it and it happened?
No, it didn't happen.
Oh, okay.
No. But honestly, I just do not remember my dreams. There are some that I'm like, I got to remember this one. I got to remember. Nope. Nothing. Because by the time I would get to the notepad, no, nothing. It's gone.
Yeah.
Seems like kind of a waste.
Yeah, I know, really. So also Don was saying, I was talking about, I have a story about getting drunk, and, it's okay. So I was reading this book, and forgive me if you've heard the story before, but I was reading this book, Mark Macy, Spirit Faces. And in the book, he describes this guy that, was like an alcoholic when he died. And that, Mark Macy's seeing him on the other side, and he's in a bar in the DR, the dismal realm. And that's what the realm is right above our realm. Okay. It's called the dismal realm. So there's bars there and stuff. So anyways, a lot of the people in those bars look for people on Earth that are drunk to walk into them so they can feel that total experience. Although it sounds like you can there too. I don't know. But anyways, they walk into drunk people. And I think, Dave, that might be where the name spirits came from. Like, you know what I mean? The spirits walking into a drunk person. Maybe. I'm not sure if that's where the name came from, but so interesting, So anyways, there's other things in the dismal realm too, like places and things like that. But so I do believe that when you are under the influence, and let's face it, how many times do we see people on drugs that are like, totally, they seem totally haunted and, possessed. So I think that is a dicey thing, even though, I get drunk. It's not like I don't get drunk because of that. But
well, we're going to be seeing some serious spirits this weekend at the Provincetown Paracon. Can honestly say that.
Dan, thank you. Dan says that is why they call alcohol spirits. Okay, thank you.
I did not know that. I honestly did not know that. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. And Dennis just asked that. He said she won the Stoker Award. I did win the Stoker Award. Thanks, Dennis, for noticing.
Oh, Dennis is like our resident spy around here. Even though we got CIA operative Joey in the chat room on Spreaker, he's not pulling his weight as a CIA operative. So we got Dennis, who does all the research on that side.
Yeah, Eric, I've met David. before. He published me. He used to have a journal too that he published me in a couple times. Yeah, no. So anyways, what else is around that hotel, Dave? Did you look into it?
I haven't looked. I'm going in blind on this. I'm going in blind. You know, I'm hoping on the Friday, because we'll be arriving there around, by the time we get into town, I think we'll probably be in Provincetown around 7:45, 8 o'clock by the time you check in. I'm going to get something to eat. That's all I'm saying. If there's a Taco Bell around there, I'm pigging out, because I haven't had Taco Bell.
No, don't go to a Taco Bell.
Oh, hell yeah.
Go to a seafood restaurant. They probably have awesome chowder.
I don't eat seafood.
Oh, God. All right.
I'm one of them.
You'd rather eat Taco Bell. Taco Hell.
Don't you insult that. Yo quiero Taco Bell. You know?
Listen, you don't even know who Pancho Villa is.
You didn't know my favorite Guns N' Roses song. By the way, how is your Guns N' Roses swag?
It's freaking awesome.
Are you bringing me any?
I should.
You should.
I do need to make some money when I'm down there, so I should bring some down there. These are original posters from when they first came out, Dave.
I know, but they have to get home safely. That's 3,500 miles.
I can mail them to you.
Yes, we'll see. Bring me a sample. Bring me like a little corner of it or something. I'll take it by pieces. By the way, Bill Cardwell, thank you for posting on your Facebook page your big win on purpleplates.com with Corrine de Winter and old Dave Scott here. You know, we only got like 5 minutes left. 5 minutes. This show has flown by between you and Jenniffer Weigel the first 2 hours.
Yeah, she was awesome.
Yeah. Robert White's wife, Amber, is American. And they both live down under in Australia. She's now yelling at the radio, saying, "We don't have Taco Bell down here." So she's now feeding my slice of cheesecake to their dog. Bad retaliation. Bad retaliation.
Now, Joe, I remember Joe sent me his email or his address recently because I'm getting these crosses blessed at this place I went to. It's the monks live at the Spencer Abbey. And I had an amazing experience there, but I'll tell you that some other time. It was an amazing experience, but they, I had a bunch of crosses blessed before, and I thought I'm going to make a donation to them, and I'm going to send them a bunch of crosses for them to bless and send back to me. So I asked if anybody wanted one, and Joe was one of the people that said he wanted one. So I do have his address for that, so I can send the plate at the same time.
Well, that's very nice. Joe has nice hair. Can't get around that. You know, it's pretty sad when you have a guy who, women are swooning over his locks. Swooning, I say. Swooning. It's the way it works. I wish I could have hair like Joe. I really do. It just never works that way.
Yes, Lisa, I have your address too.
Yes, make sure you go to Corrine de Winter's Facebook page. So that way, if you won one of these lovely purple plates, read the directions on it because you don't want to hurt yourself. Make sure you all go to her Facebook page. Send your address to Corrine so she can get you the purple plate that you want. Corrine, thank you so much. I will see you in like, let's see, less than 96 hours. Less than 96 hours, Blondie. You and I having some fun.
I don't have blonde hair anymore, but that's okay.
That's all right. I'll take you any way I can get you. That's the way it goes.
That's right, you will.
Exactly. Just don't mind the beard. I got the beard going. It's nicely trimmed. Going to trim it up one more time for tomorrow. You hold on, Corrine, because I have to wrap this thing up. If you're listening in on the terrestrial radio side, you hear Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking us out with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Tomorrow night on the program, Elizabeth April, her monthly segment starting this month. She'll be back talking everything spiritual, everything that does the whole spirit thing. You know what? I'm on vacation mode right now. I seriously am. I'm on my way to Boston, Provincetown Paracon this weekend. I hope all of you on the East Coast, come on down to Provincetown. Come say hello. Drop by the old booth. Corrine DeWinter is going to be there. Everett Themer, Eric Markham, you've heard him on the show. And yours truly, Dave Scott. I even got posters, stickers, T-shirts ready for you. I hope you can make it. I would love to meet each and every one of you down there. Thank you so much for taking part. I will be back on Monday, May 16th. with Dale Harder on Close Encounters, talking UFO encounters. Until then, you got Uncle Jimbo, James Tyson, right here in the cabin, right through Monday evening. He's set, he's ready, and I think he's got his special beard oils ready for the show as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to our audience in the chat rooms, to Jenniffer Weigel, our guest the first 2 hours on the show, Corrine DeWinter in hour number 3, and all of you on Twitter. Remember, help spread the word, because here at Spaced Out Radio, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us home.